Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 379 of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast here on the new Cyclone Sports Podcast Network. I am your host, Sam Smith, and we are joined by Mark Allred and Roxy. Mark and Roxy girl, how are we doing?
What's up, guys? Yes, this is the Roxy lady. This is our family dog, and I just wanted to have her pop in and check out the studio and just get her a bit of fame for a little bit. She's 2 years old, and she's absolutely amazing. What's up, guys? Glad to be here again for another week. Got two awesome guests this week, so I'm really stoked to talk Bruins with all three of you gentlemen.
That is awesome. Glad to have Roxy here on the pod. We are also joined today, as Mark's going to go put Roxy back downstairs or somewhere. We're also joined today by Kenny Kaminsky, who's a co-host with Mark on the Providence Bruins Report, the AHL Bruins Report podcast. Kenny, how are we?
I'm good. It's been a while, and I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you back. And we are also joined today by BNG correspondent. He is what we're calling our Canadian correspondent. He's been credentialed in Toronto and Ottawa. He's going to be credentialed up in Montreal for the Four Nations Face-Off. Parker McLean. Parker, how you doing today?
You know, it's a great day when you get to talk a little bit of Bruins hockey, so can never complain.
Absolutely. And we are going to be talking a lot of Bruins hockey here today, including first games here. We're going to talk about the games of the past week. But before we do, make sure if you're watching on YouTube or if you're not watching on YouTube, head over to YouTube. It's the Black and Gold Productions YouTube channel. Head on over, subscribe, and hit that bell. And make sure you hit the like button on the live stream. Also, if you're listening on other streaming platforms, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts, make sure to give us a 5-star rating, a nice review, and follow the pod. All right, let's talk about some other games of the past week here. So last Saturday, we discussed how this game was going to be a doozy, and it was a doozy. It just didn't end well. The Bruins lost this one 6-5 in a shootout to the Ottawa Senators in the first shootout the Bruins had played all season. And, well, they pulled a typical Bruins there, Mark. 2-goal lead. They got comfortable. Under 5 minutes to go. They blow the lead. 2 goals the goalie pulled. Game tied. They lose in a shootout. Mark, I know this game was 8 days ago, but what happened here?
I don't know. It's just a meltdown, to be honest with you. And against a team that is so close to you in the standings and also fighting for playoff relevancy. I really thought that this was going to be a win, but just another late game collapse, in my opinion. They just can't keep it together under 5 minutes. Like legitimately, the forward final five is hexed. It's absolutely hexed.
The Ford F-150 Final Five, which is why the Final Five on my streams is not sponsored by Ford F-150. It's sponsored by this production company right here. Parker, what are your thoughts on this one? You were at the game live in Ottawa, up in the media row. What happened here?
You know, Sam, I have to say that the reason why the Bruins were so close in this game was because of Swayman. And then as soon as Swayman fell apart, the team fell apart. And you know, they scored 5 goals in this one. I don't think they should have had that many. You know, there was a weak goal here, weak goal there. And then all of a sudden, you're up 2 goals. And what's been happening the entire game continues to happen. You know, the last, I think, 2 games before that, over 40 shots. This one, the exact same. So eventually, if you're going to let that many shots in on your goaltender, eventually one's going to go in. And, you know, we saw it here, just too much momentum for the Sens. And of course, it rolled over, and Sens take this one 6-5 in a shootout.
Kenny, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this one was an ugly one for sure. I mean, this is one of the games that when you're up 5-3 and you get scoring from all the different areas, Lettieri, Beecher, you're just like, this is a resounding win. This is such a good place to go. You know, the cup could be back on after this win where you're down 2 and then you get back up 2 and then just ugly. I felt like there was no pressure. I know I saw it. There was just no pressure. And I don't know why the Bruins do this. I understand trying to stay within your system, but I felt like there was just too much passing. They allowed way too much movement on the 6-on-5, and that's why they lost here.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when it was 5-4 in the final 20 seconds when Josh Norris tied the game at 5. They left him open. They were just kind of standing there. There was 4 guys facing one way. Norris was wide open in the slot. Can't happen. I was saying this last night. I was calling high school hockey last night, and I think Greater New Bedford High School, who lost 11-1, did a better job collapsing your defense in the slot than the Bruins did in the final 20 seconds in a 1-goal game. That was because they just left Norris wide open. They were all stationary, and that can't happen. And then overtime, a couple of golden opportunities for Coyle, and he misses both of them, hits the crossbar one time, doesn't do anything there on the second attempt. And then the shootout, I don't even know what they were doing in the shootout. I mean, Coyle, Pasternak, Zacha, really? That's who you throw out, Mark?
Yeah, I had my hand raised for the audio viewers. I'm actually baffled by the shootout rotation.
Same.
Why not go Patra over Coyle?
I mean,
I didn't understand that one.
I'm not even arguing Coyle. I'm arguing Zacha.
Okay.
Why is he out there? You had Brad Marchand and you benched him. I mean, that didn't make sense. That's my Parker.
As someone that asked the question, it was asked of Joe Sacco why Marchand wasn't out there for overtime and the shootout. Coach's decision. He didn't play well in that final 5, so I don't know.
I don't buy it. That's not an excuse. You're one of your best players. Your guy. He's fantastic on those one-on-ones on the goalie. You put out Zacha over Marchand. I'm sorry. That wasn't the right call. Sorry, Joe. That's not. Kenny, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the end of the game was a blunder. And like you said, if you're going to have the puck on the perimeter and not put as much pressure, you need to make sure that you get the guy in front. You can't not put pressure and then allow the pass to the center. I mean, come on, this is like squirt level hockey. But when you have a guy like Brad Marchand, who's so good in the shootout and so good in overtime, I don't care if he shot the puck in his own net. Let him go out there and try to redeem himself.
Yeah, I completely agree. Overall, it was just a complete collapse on all aspects of the game. Offense just fell asleep after they hit 5-3. The defense fell apart the entire game pretty much. And then the goaltending, sometimes your goalie can't bail you out. You need your defense in front of you. I was saying last night that the goalie should be your 6th defender in that situation. You have 5 defenders in front of you. They shouldn't get to the 6th defender. And they got to them a few times. But they bounced back on Monday with a 6-3 victory over the Sharks. Now, it is the Sharks, but the Sharks were winning this game 3-2 going into the third period. And Parker, it was 3-2 going into the third period against one of the worst teams in the NHL. What? They come back though.
Yeah, well, you got to take positives where there's positives, I guess. But it pulls the question where I think it was either after the Sens game or this game where I started asking myself, is this team playing good with moments of bad or playing bad with moments of good? And I don't know I still don't know the answer to that after watching the rest of the games this week because they've done both. And it's like, are they playing good with moments of bad or bad with moments of good? Kenny, I want to see what you can come up with on that one.
Listen, I don't think I'm going to be able to beat that, but I'm just going to say that with all these games that we keep winning poorly. And when you're a good team like the Maple Leafs or the Panthers, being able to win poorly is big because it shows that you're resilient. And even when you're not playing your best, that you could still find ways to win games. And that's huge. But every game that we're playing, we're winning badly and we're playing like not great teams. So it scares me that, even when we play like a mid-level team like New Jersey without Markstrom, like we're going to get blown out. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm with Parker here.
Mark?
Yeah, I can agree with that. Man, Parker, what an analogy there. That was like something that you have somebody sitting on your couch and charge hourly. Nice work, man.
Some philosophical shit right there from Mark.
Yeah, exactly. Dropping the philosophical bomb.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, 2 points is 2 points, regardless of how ugly they are. But yeah, there were moments in this game where I was like, oh man, I mean, the way that like Celebrini can play, and Smith and so on, and all those other young players on that team. Like, shout out to like Mike Greer, to be honest with you, to just to go in there and just say, yep, I got all this talent and create something really special, because it might not look good right now, but next year, or maybe in the 2 years after that, I think he's going to have a really good complementary lineup that could be competitive in the NHL. So I'm not saying Stanley Cup or anything like that, but be, a consistent wild card team for the next 2 or 3 years isn't out of the question, especially with that list of talent and what's coming, this summer's draft and so on. It's just I'll take the 2 points, but man, we just got to get better. Like you guys have alluded to in each one of your responses, was you got to be better against teams like this that are lower in the standings and stuff like that. You have to take advantage of that. Create more offense against teams like this, because it's just going to benefit you moving forward into the next contest, which you can now create a bit of a trend and move forward and really push. I'm not saying this is going to be a Stanley Cup Boston Bruins team, but I would like to see them at least make the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would think that maybe they would take momentum in this game and take it to the next one, and they stunk. Probably their worst performance of the week by far. They absolutely stunk in this one. The second period was atrocious. They lose to the Devils 5-1 on Wednesday. And, I thought it was fine. They were winning 1-0. We're talking about him in a little bit, but Morgan Geekie, another goal, another good setup from Pasternak. I was like, okay, this isn't bad. First period was fine. And then they just didn't play good hockey the rest of the game. 4 goals in the second period, 7 penalties taken in the game. That just can't happen, Kenny. It just can't happen.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't ever root for injury, but when Markstrom got injured, I was like, okay, now we can kind of take it to Allen. He's coming in cold. This should be easy for a team that is not performing well offensively. If I saw this and I was on the ice, I'm like, okay, any shot that I have, I'm taking. I'm throwing that puck on the net. But just an ugly, ugly loss. I mean, you score 1 and then you give up 5. Just not a great look. And it takes away from how, you found a way to win the last game. And now it's like we're starting all over again. So just difficult.
Mark?
The first period, I was encouraged, actually, in this game. I thought that, hey, this is a bona fide playoff team out of this New Jersey Devils. And the Bruins are making a game of it. But you get that first goal, kind of knock the wind out of the sails on the road. Try to, calm down that fan base that's in the building and so on. And I thought they did a pretty good job. But then the next 40 minutes, there was nothing there. And it really nothing there much to touch on, to be honest with you. But I do want to talk about one incident that happened, and Kenny just brought it up, was the Justin Brazeau contact in the crease with goaltender Jacob Markstrom. I didn't think that was egregious at all. I thought that was a hockey play gone bad. I think that Brazeau lost his balance previous, and there was no recovering. There was absolutely no milliseconds to even react to turn away from that, because he was basically sliding skate forward. So I didn't understand that. I thought that would have been a penalty on New Jersey, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I thought that was a trip on Brendan Dillon on the back check.
Yeah, the officiating lately has been horrendous. Sorry, NHL. Not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry. I'll call it the way I see it. Your officiating sucks.
Yeah, Sam's always like, I said it.
Yeah, that's true. That's me. Yeah, I'm a straight shooter. I call it the way I see it, No, the officiating's been terrible. That was a penalty on Dillon. I would have even taken 4-on-4 over a penalty just on Brazeau there. I would have taken that. Okay? If you're going to call Brazeau for goalie interference, fine. You got to call Dillon for tripping there, too. He tripped him on the way to the net or something. There was definitely not just Brazeau making a hockey move to the middle and taking him out. That's not what happened. And then prayers up to Markstrom. He's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks or something like that with an injury. So prayers up to him on that. But Parker here, what are your thoughts on this game overall and on the Markstrom play?
The game, bad with good moments. And for the Markstrom play, if you're going in, flying into a goaltender, you're expecting to get taken out and go into the goalie, right? So I agree that it probably either shouldn't have been a call or been a 4-on-4. And I think, in that sense, I wasn't surprised to see Brazeau get a penalty out of it. But it does suck for Markstrom, right? Like he's going to miss 4 Nations now, which is about 3 weeks away. And, it's a tough thing not to get to represent your nation, especially with the Olympics right around the corner.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really good point. Reminiscent of Aaron Ekblad dragging Lauko into the net and Lauko getting called for goal interference. Yeah, that call still pisses me off to this day. And then the Panthers.
Neil Simmons, everybody. Resident Block and Goal Productions NCAA college guy. Give him a follow.
Yeah. He's doing some good stuff over on his X. No, but I think that's right. Remember when Lauko got interfered with and they called the interference and Ekblad shoved him deliberately and they didn't call it? It's kind of what happened here. It was the same play. Making a move to the middle on a breakaway. I don't know. When we get to this game, much better. Second half of back-to-back, which, by the way, Parker sent me an interesting stat. In the second half of a back-to-back, it was according to Sportsnet, in the second half of a back-to-back, the Bruins have the best record in the National Hockey League. They are 5-0-1 in second halves of back-to-backs. They beat the Senators 2-0 here. Parker, I'll start with you. What did you think happened here in this one? And they got a victory. Korpisalo came in last minute and shut the door.
Well, thank goodness for Korpisalo, right? Like it just feels like this recurring theme where Bruins get outshot, play is okay, but then their goaltender bails them out, and that seems to be the common theme here. And it reminds me a lot of, so this past winter break, I was up in Ottawa for the World Juniors, and aside from watching Canada play terribly, it showed something about these it's basically the European style of hockey, and the Bruins definitely draw from that, where they basically trap out the middle of the ice, let the shots come from outside the perimeter. And that's how teams like Latvia beat Canada, right? Because they don't need to score a lot of goals. What they have to do is just keep the puck out of the middle, because if you're shooting from the outside, it's a lot easier for your goaltender to save. And that's what the Bruins have been trying to do lately. And it was interesting in that Saturday game, because they let up, I think it was 43, 44 shots, and the majority of them came from the middle of the ice, where in this game, it was a little bit more to the perimeter, and we really saw that with Korpisalo's ability to make the save. And there were moments, of course, where the Bruins just lost all coverage, but in this one, it was a lot better.
Yeah, I thought it was, to be honest, out of the 5 games of the past week, I thought it was the best defended game the Bruins have played in the past week. And I'm going to say it, and I'll go to you, Kenny, after this. I think Korpisalo played his best game of the season on Thursday. He looked so good on Thursday. Like, I was not terrified of having him in the net in that third period. I don't know about you, Kenny.
I would say that, yeah, this is the best game of the week, but it was also another ugly one. There was definitely some mistakes, and let's not forget, Tim Stützle should have scored that goal. We got really lucky. Korpisalo got bailed out. This really should have been a 1-1 game heading into overtime. Now, but this is a game where, the game against the Sharks, I'm a little bit more critical, because I'm like, okay, like we should have beat the shit out of this team. But this game, I'm like, okay, we played a lot better, and, we got a call that went our way finally. So now these are 2 points that I would take in stride and be like, okay, you know what? Now we can build off of this. But Korpisalo has been much better. And, when you watch the AHL and you're like, you need 2 good goalies to make it far in the AHL. You just have to, with the way the schedule goes. So now seeing it in the NHL, where we have 2 fantastic goalies that can go at any night and we don't have to be concerned, it's great. I like it.
Mark?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of what Kenny just said there, is having 2 good goalies, especially down the stretch here. Now, I know that people are going to buck this trend and everything, but I understand that Swayman's making a decent bag. I really do. But I also think that Korpisalo is taking on a different bit of a a different animal here in this organization. It's a much better organization than he was coming from previously. And Bob Asenza, he's like the goalie whisperer now. He's right up there with the Mitch Korns and Elier, I think is his name. I'm not sure, but anyway, I think his stock has gone up. So I want to see him play more. I really do believe that if they went to a more of a schedule like they had last year when Allmark was involved, like in every other game schedule, I think that Sway would really benefit from that coming down the stretch here, especially going into the playoffs if they make it. I know. Save it, chat. Save it. So, I would like to see Korpisalo more involved because I think he's getting better and better with the more trust he gets. And this was a game where, it should have ended 1-1 in regulation, but still, I mean, he was the benefiting factor of that game not being a complete blowout.
Yeah, 100%. They got bailed out by that quick whistle because I don't think they were winning that game in overtime. I don't think so. The offense fell flat after Geekie scored to make it 1-0. So they got lucky, that's for sure. And that's the way of the road. Swayman comes back in on yesterday against the Avalanche, and they sweep the Avalanche in the season series. But again, another game where in the third period they come alive. They're down 1-0 going into the third period. They barely had 10 shots on the net, right? I think they had 8 going into the third period. They come out. Their third period was their best period of the day, and thank goodness it was because they come out and score 3 goals. Pastrnak and Geekie still have that amazing connection. 2 great goals to make it 2-1, and then they would put it away in the final seconds with an empty netter from Pastrnak. Hey, Mark, you said it earlier. A win's a win. They don't ask how. They just ask how many points you got, and the Bruins got 2.
Yeah, resilience is the word I like to use, and I'm not good with words, as everybody knows. But like the beginning of the game, and people were pointing it out too, that were in the house, especially Julia Simone, our very own. She was up there on level 9 watching the game. And others in the media row were also saying is like, wow, the Bruins look so slow against the Avalanche on the ice out there. And they did. Like, I think the Avalanche should have had at least spotted the Boston Bruins probably a 4-0 lead by midpoint of the game. But they didn't. I mean, they somehow held the Colorado offense. They hemmed them to the sides. They didn't let much in. And towards the second half to the end of the game, they showed and really pushed the Avalanche to a point where they just couldn't do anything and shut them down. So I liked this game, especially against the team. They took advantage of a very emotional 24 hours for the Avalanche. So the Rantanen gone, Natchez, and all the whole trade happened where I thought, wow, this could be a good response for the Avs, or it could be, damn, this lineup just got shaken up with a valued member that we had on the bench. Either way, emotions were going to be held. And thankfully, the Bruins came out with a 3-1 win.
Yeah, they did win this game, Kenny.
Yeah, to Mark's point, I mean, this Colorado Avalanche team kind of got punched in the face on the road with their one of their best players getting traded. And again, I'm going to say it, it was an ugly win, but it was a great third period. Like, if we're going to win ugly, at least, have something to build on for the next game. And just thank God for Pastrnak and Morgan Geekie's connection, because without that right now, I think we would lose every single game.
Yeah, absolutely. I literally think if those two were not on a line, the Bruins will have not scored since freaking Monday against the Sharks. I genuinely think that. I think they're the only people that have scored since Monday, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And in this game, amazing stat, because this Boston Bruins team, I want to say for at least 5 or 6 or 7 games have gotten severely outshot. They got outshot in this game against the Colorado Avalanche, which is a pretty damn good team when you look at it on paper. They only had 15 shots on net, and they walk away with a 3-1 win. How bipolar is this damn team?
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, but they've won a decent amount of games recently. They're trying to string together more wins than losses. I mean, we haven't really seen a lot this year. Parker, what do you think about this one and how their next week looks here coming up?
I think this game was bad with a little bit of good, but at the same time, you could say it the completely other way around, right? Like it was one of those games where it really could have went either way. The Bruins sort of just hung around as they so often do. But you could see it, and you think about who they'll play, assuming they go for a cup run, which I know, once again, make the playoffs first. But, if you are going to go on this cup run, the Avs are a team you might just see in that cup final, right? So for the Bruins, it's a victory against a cup contender, which is a big 2 points in the standings, especially when you're fighting for your life.
Yeah, 100%. If you're down 1-0 going into the third period, you're getting absolutely outplayed, and you come out 25 seconds in, you kill off the final 10 seconds of a power play. I coined it out of the box on the score sheet for Pastrnak. Found he got a good pass over to Geekie to tie the game, and then finds Geekie again to take the lead, and then gets an empty netter to finish it off. I mean, man, Pastrnak. I think Pastrnak has the most points out of anybody in the month of January so far.
Yeah, it was star or third star last week, I believe.
Yeah, I'm sure that's going to go up. That's got to go up. I mean, he's got to be like second or first star. He is literally red hot right now. So
the pasta is hot. Do not touch.
He is. Yeah, he is a very good player right now. He's starting to earn that pay right now in this past month. So he's starting to heat it up. Let's talk about some transactions of the week, since it's constantly something new every few days. They originally call up Patrick Brown and Max Jones from Providence as Mark Kastelic went to IR. Jones has played in the game since. They called him up Wednesday morning. Am I correct on that? Or Wednesday morning, something like that. They call him up, and Jones has played in every game since. Brown had only played in one. Brown was sent down along with Michael DiPietro, who came up on Thursday. I'm having a brain fart. It's early. Thursday came up to back up Korpisalo as Swayman was not dressed on Thursday due to a nagging injury, they said. And then DiPietro and Brown go back down. But guess who's still here because Mark Kastelic's still on IR? It's Max Jones. He's still here. And Mark and Kenny, I'll let you speak the most about this. Mark, what are your thoughts on these transactions and how Max Jones has kind of panned out?
I thought for sure that Michael DiPietro would get the start. That would have been cool for the guy. Yeah. I think he's deserved it. But when points are at a premium right now, and you're trying to grab on to whatever you got moving forward, you go with the experienced guy, and obviously glad they did. But DiPietro's been playing really good, and we'll talk about that later. I thought Max Jones did okay. I didn't really see anything that really blew me away that says keep him up, or any of his play that said he needs to be sent back down. I thought he did all right. He's a little physical in the time that he got. Not sure how many minutes he played, but still, I think he was pretty decent.
I think he has the least, at least yesterday. I think he had the least ice time of any Bruin on the ice yesterday. So
yeah, he's been playing good down in Providence. He's a physical aspect of that minor pro affiliate. So, yeah.
Kenny?
Yeah, I was hoping DiPietro would get a start as well. I mean, down in Providence, he's just been incredible. I mean, his record is really good, and it still doesn't reflect how well he's played. I think he's around like 14-5 and something, but the team has been such a roller coaster all year with all the players they've gotten and everybody leaving, and he's been consistently good. He's been the MVP of that team down there, in my opinion. And then Max Jones was not the call up that I was thinking, but I mean, it's got to be difficult for him. You know, he was an NHLer and then he gets sent down. He kind of just the odd man out there. Cole Koepke ends up stepping up. So, you know, like I said, wouldn't have been my pick, but when he's down in Providence, and you can tell when he wants it down in Providence. I'll never forget sitting in Bridgeport, watching him just barrel through two guys and then pick the puck back up after getting hauled down and then going top shelf. Like when he wants it, it is unbelievable. And I just want to see that compete every shift from Max Jones.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to see. I want to see more of that in Boston. If we can get more of that, then that's good. And Jones is sneakily a fast skater. I didn't really realize it, but he can move. I'm watching. I think it was Thursday against the Senators. Bruins have a 3-on-2. It's not Beecher leading the rush. It's Jones leading the rush. And it was in the second period. He is blowing by guys. I'm like, what is happening? And it was a good chance for Brazo in front, too, in that 3-on-2. So Jones has some sneaky speed. I didn't realize it. I didn't think he had it, but, he can move for sure. Parker, what are your quick thoughts on this one?
Sort of the same as the other two here. They're big shoes to fill with Mark Kastelic, and I don't think a lot of people were expecting Kastelic to play as well as he has in a Bruins uniform, especially of late. Do you think about the Allmark trade, right? Everyone was, why are we getting Korpisalo when Kastelic was one of the guys that we also got in that trade, right? So I think in general, like, big shoes to fill, especially of late. Max Jones, in my eyes, he's played decent enough. He's not going to fill the shoes that we've seen, but he's been played good enough to be able to stay up at the very least. Yeah,
absolutely. And he'll be here until Kastelic comes back, and I think then that's when he'll probably go down back to Providence. Speaking of injuries, since Mark Kastelic's on IR, do we have a timetable on when Kastelic could be back? Is he already skating? Do we have an idea, Mark?
No practice today. We are recording on Sunday morning, but there is no practice today. But there is an 11 o'clock practice at the Warrior Ice Arena on Monday morning. I think we might have some representation there. Not sure. But yeah, we should know then, obviously. If he's going to be wearing a Merlot jersey or a red no contact, or out there in a black, or doing a pre or post practice skate, we'll have somebody will report it regardless.
And Cole Koepke, he got banged up in the Lightning game a couple weeks ago. We haven't seen him since. Does anybody have an update on him and how he's doing?
I don't. Sorry.
Dang. So hopefully he's doing all right. He's battling back from an upper body injury, I think is what they listed it as. And then McAvoy, I'm assuming, going to come back at some point this week. I'm assuming, or maybe the next.
From my understanding, it's they're giving him a couple of games off just to rest and relax it. More or less, I think it's precautionary, to be honest with you. I think there was something that was nagging him that he couldn't play through. So this is more or less like a little bit of a break for him, a little bit of a healing time, and hopefully he comes back soon, because the last time I knew, he was only projected to miss upwards of 3 games.
And it's been 5 or 6 since that he's missed.
Has it been that many?
I think so. He hasn't played. Let me see. Tuesday against the Lightning. Yeah, I think it's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
6 games. He missed 6 games.
My apologies.
Yeah, he was only projected to miss 3. He's missed 6. That's concerning.
Okay.
That's a little concerning to me. And Hampus Lindholm. He's the last guy that here, and we've been kind of hearing some stuff about him starting to practice. with the team. The last time I heard he was still in a Merlot, no contact. Are we still in that for Lindholm, or is he starting to shed that and try to move towards some partial contact here?
Hopefully he gets back sooner or later, because his defense they could definitely use him, because he was playing really, really good. Probably the best defenseman before he left to the shattered knee. But I watched the Behind the B last night and looked like he was, getting some good stretches, rehabbing, at a decent pace. Saw him out in the ice with the trainer, skating trainer, and I can't remember his name. McLean? Is it John McLean?
Might be.
Die Hard is a Christmas movie. But yeah, he is, out in the ice, stretching it out, and hopefully he gets back sooner or later and is ready for a game shape, because this is no better time to have him getting back involved and with several weeks to go in the regular season. It'd be nice to have him if the Bruins do make the playoffs.
Oh, great point here from Neil. Need Lindholm back ASAP to stabilize Carlo. He hasn't been the same without Hampus. Yeah.
What a great point. Great point.
Carlo has taken a lot of steps back, and maybe it's because Hampus has been out, or I don't know, but Carlo has stepped back, and I think he needs to turn it around definitely soon. I think if Lindholm plays with Carlo, and Lindholm's the same player he was before he fractured his knee, or his kneecap anyway, then Carlo's going to be a better defenseman because of that. Because he's been having it's been a revolving, rotating door of who's his defenseman partner has been. Wotherspoon, Lohrei, Osterley, Callahan now. I mean, he's been the guy that hasn't had the consistent defensive pairing since Lindholm got hurt. And most of them, I mean, Callahan's been fine. I mean,
I think so too.
I think he's been fine.
I don't think he's looked out of place. I mean, nothing's like flashing. He's showing Bobby Orr stuff or anything like that, but he's showing that he belongs. And I think this is really good for his future, because if he doesn't want to stick around because of the landscape in front of him, we'll talk about that later on. But I think he's done pretty well.
I think Callahan and Carlo are turning into the shutdown defensive pairing of what they currently have right now. Lohrei and Wotherspoon are the most dynamic. Zadorov
What timing? What timing? You and Neil just basically said the same thing at the same time.
Well, I didn't even notice that. Okay, yeah. But I think Callahan and Carlo very shut down. Lohrei and Wotherspoon very offensively minded, and Zadorov and Peak are just heavyweights. I think that's what they're doing on their defensive pairings right now. And I wouldn't change it until Lindholm and McAvoy come back. Sorry, Osterley. I like what I'm seeing out of Callahan more. I think Callahan's been solid. He's been more. He hasn't really done a ton in his offensive zone, which is fine. He's just been good, rock solid in his own end, and we need more of that defense right now because of how not great the defense has been since Lindholm and McAvoy have gone down. Callahan comes in, has stabilized some of for the most part, the entire defense, really. So it's good for Callahan to get some quality NHL minutes against some formidable opponents like the Avalanche, and he didn't look out of place yesterday at all. He had some big assignments. He was covering McKinnon. He was covering Natchez. He was even covering Makar for a little bit, and he looked completely like he belonged there, for sure. So, Mark, do you have a point?
I do not.
Oh, okay. I thought you were looking at something and it looked like you had a point.
No, I was teeing up the next conversation.
Yeah. Let's talk about the salary cap. Let's look ahead to the summer. Apparently, the salary cap could be going up as high as $97 million. Heard some reports about $100 million. Okay. We'll see what happens with that. Salary cap's going to be going up big time. AFP Analytics released their projected contracts for every RFA or UFA or Group 6 UFA in the National Hockey League and across the organizations this summer. I'm going to play a little rapid fire game. I'm going to tell you a player. I'm going to tell you their contract projection. And you could say if you would re-sign them or higher or lower, and we're going to keep it pretty quick because we have a lot of players to go through. All right. So let's start with, I'm going to start with AHL for now. Okay. We're going to start with AHL. We're going to go from AHL up to NHL. Brandon Bussey. Would you bring him back next season? Mark, I'll start with you.
Absolutely. I think this is a player that has tremendous work ethic, and I think the season may be a down year for him, but it's also a learning curve to be better. And I think that he can, if he wants to, obviously stay with the Boston Bruins on another year. I think that would be beneficial to the team's depth.
Michael DiPietro. Kenny?
Yeah, I mean, DiPietro has been incredible. Came back, got a shutout against Rochester. I mean, that's just how dialed in this guy is. And Rochester isn't a bad team. They were ranked third at the time. They were ranked second the day before. And then the team behind them actually got a win. So they were in third when Providence played them. But, yeah, DiPietro, if that guy wants to stay, you re-sign him for sure.
Absolutely. Mark, any thoughts on DiPietro?
Yeah, I would keep him around if possible. It's really hard to look at the landscape at the NHL level with Korpisalo under contract, Jeremy Swayman under contract, and where players like Bussey and DiPietro are going to fit in their future. You know, they might look around the NHL and see if they want to test the waters as well to see if there's a better loophole for them to get to the NHL and more consistent time at that level. And you can't blame them for wanting that. I mean, the goal as a young player is to make the NHL, and players will do whatever it takes. If they've come this far and worked this hard, they're going to want to take it. So if they have an opportunity elsewhere, that might be beneficial to them.
Yeah, hold on. Not to mention that they have two really good goalies in front of them, but they also have goalies pushing up as well. Ryan Bichal has been playing pretty well down in Maine, and then at the end of the season, they're going to get Philip Sved back, hopefully. So there's two goalies pushing up, and then there's also kind of that block up at the top. So I could definitely see one of those two guys wanting to leave, or even both of them. And you're right, you can't really blame them. But I mean, two incredible goalies who have been the backbone of this team for a few years now.
Not only that, really, to dovetail on what Kenny said, Philip Svedback, playing at Providence College, has been a Mike Richter Award nominee. So good on him, the goaltender, to get that recognition, and hopefully captures the best goaltender in NCAA hockey this year.
All right, Parker is back with us. Rapid fire real quick. Bussey and DiPietro, would you bring them back?
If they want to come back. But at the same time, that becomes the question, right? They realize what's in front of them, because you're probably not getting rid of Korpisalo or Swayman rather anytime soon, right? So that's the question. So yes, if they want to come back.
Ian Mitchell. Mark, I'll start with you.
I would. I think he's been a really good defenseman for Providence in the past couple of years. I would bring him back and see if he passes through the waiver process again, but I think he's a good depth player that has had some NHL time with the Boston Bruins, and it's not all been that bad when he's played. So I think that he's been that smaller type of defenseman, almost compared to like a Matt Grzelcyk who has good maneuverability and can work a power play laterally along the blue line. So. And he surveys the ice fairly well. So I would keep him around for, short term.
Kenny?
Yeah, I would keep Ian Mitchell just because of how dynamic he's been in Providence. Not a lot of goals, but he did score last night, had a beautiful shot from the point.
Mm-hmm.
I would say he is the quarterback of the power play, but he really, the power play is more towards the goal line. I would say a lot more with the bumpers on the side, but other than that, I think he has 2 goals. He has 17 assists. He's been big for the team, especially with how many young defensemen they had. So I would definitely keep him around if we can.
And Parker, real quick, Ian Mitchell.
Yes.
All right. Drew Bavaro. Mark, What are your thoughts on Drew Bavard? Would you bring him back?
I don't know. I think so. But I don't know about placement, to be honest with you. Especially with what's coming up the lineup, and how many spots are available for the American Hockey League. If there's a spot available in Maine, I would keep him back and put him there to have him on on the shelf. I think he's a pretty decent defenseman, but nothing really blows my mind away about wanting him to keep him back. So,
yeah, Kenny.
If you were to ask me before Letary and Patra and all the guys got sent down, I'd probably say yeah, keep him around. But I mean, I've seen guys like Jackson Edwards step up big time in this stretch that Providence has had. So honestly, I don't think there's even really a need to keep Bavaro around if these guys are going to play as well as they've been playing. So I would say you can let him walk.
He is a restricted free agent at the end of the season, and it looks like that these guys were saying not to qualify him and let him walk in free agency. Riley Tufte. Parker, I'll start with you on this one. He's been up, he's been down, he's been up in Boston and Providence. Riley Tufte for Parker. What do you got?
I like it. Bring him back, league minimum. I think you bring him back personally.
Kenny?
I mean, if he stays in Providence, I don't think there's really I don't know if there's going to be a chance that he wants to come back. I mean, if he does, he's been all right in Providence. I would have liked to see him, be a little bit better, especially coming from the NHL. If he wants to stay around, you would have to see kind of how the lineup would shake out first, but I would say re-sign him for now.
And Mark, what are your thoughts on Tufte?
Yeah, I mean, if something could happen, low term with it's a low risk, high reward kind of thing, but yeah, he's another player that's really not blowing me away that, I'm going to want to immediately sign. He's got good size. There's a building block there with his size and skill level, but if they could come to terms and keep him around with the expectations that, you're going to be a fringe NHL, AHL player, then yeah, I'd do it. But I would actually keep those funds for like other areas of need, obviously, but see what happens.
He is going to be a unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. Here's another unrestricted free agent, the captain of the Providence Bruins, Patrick Brown. Kenny, I'll start with you. Would you bring back Patrick Brown or no?
I would. He plays a lot of roles, especially for the organization. He plays a lot of roles in Providence. He's one of those guys that's, a fringe NHL, AHL guy, but he also captains his team and, he's big on the power play. He's usually on the top line. So I would say keep him if you can.
Mark?
Yeah, I would too, just because of his experience, his knowledge. When you hear players come up in locker room videos that we've taken here at Black and Gold Productions and other ones from sports media companies across Boston that cover the Bruins, they've all spoke highly of Patrick Brown and how much of a good teammate he is. Somebody that can, a player can lean on, the Merkulovs, the Lysells, and so on. Basically taking over for Vinny Letary as he's up here. Not really, but in a sense. But I would keep him around for his leadership and so on, and being that NHL fringe player. But also, when I'm talking about these prospects and bringing them back, I'm also on the other avenue going, don't block the progression of prospects that are due, NHL time in roster spot. So just to clarify.
All right. Trevor Kuntar, he just played his 100th game in the American Hockey League recently. Mark, I'll start with you here. What are your thoughts on Trevor Kuntar? Would you bring him back?
I would. He's an RFA. He's got arbitration rights. I'm bucking the trend here a little bit, and hopefully I'm not, ruffling feathers, but I don't think he's being utilized well enough down in Providence. He's a bottom 12 forward who I believe should get higher consideration in the lineup. I think his speed and his skill set, are a little better than the veterans that they seem to have higher above him and other prospects down there, like Pitlick and Brown, and all these guys are getting higher minutes and higher responsibilities, while prospects like Kuntar are riding lower in the lineup. I just don't think that his minutes are being utilized well enough. I would bring him back, but I don't know. I don't know if a player like him is going to want to come back because of the role that they're potentially going to be playing or lack thereof.
Parker?
Yep, completely agree with Mark. I think you bring him back.
Kenny, what are your thoughts on Kuntar?
Yeah, this is a tough one because, in the AHL, you got to balance, developing prospects and winning. And I think that he kind of gets caught in the middle of that where, Mark said Pitlick has, I think, 6 points in the last 5 games. He's been playing really well. He's been huge for this team since, they've had all the call-ups. So, I mean, it's difficult. And it's also like, where, with the production Kuntar's had, where is he going to go if he decides to leave? Will a team take a flyer on him? I don't know. I mean, I would love to have him back because these are the type of guys, like, now if Merkulov goes up or, next season if Lysell goes up, this is a guy that could take that spot in Providence and be one of those second-line guys. He also plays that Boston Bruins style of game where he could be a third and fourth liner at the next level. He's valuable. It's just I don't know where to be on this. So I'm just kind of excited to see how it'll shake out.
Real quick on Kuntar. Like, this is his second full AHL season coming out of Boston College. The first year, yes, I would expect him to play lower in the lineup offensively because he's learning the game. He needs to learn those grindy minutes, use his speed, plow through board battles and so on. But year 2, where a lot of people had him as a dark horse to make the NHL roster, we're kind of like sitting back going, well, we thought he'd be higher in the lineup, with more trust and so on. And we're just not seeing it. Now he's just a fourth line grinder that is healthy scratched wicked often.
Before we get into our next one, make sure if you're on YouTube, make sure to hit the like button. We need a massive like spike on the YouTube stream. Would help us out big time. So hit the like button on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, head over to YouTube, go to the Black and Gold Productions YouTube channel and hit the like button and subscribe. Jackson Nelson. This is a weird one. I haven't really seen a ton. I'm going to put in my input on this one. I don't know. I don't know if I'm really confident in bringing him back. I don't know if you guys agree. I'll start with you, Kenny.
Yeah, this one is tough because Jackson Nelson, I feel like when he plays, he does a great job creating opportunities. Like, I could definitely remember a few breakaways this guy's had, but he just hasn't scored. And I don't know if that's because he's just not a scorer. He just can't score at this level, or it's because he hasn't had the game reps where maybe he gets on these breakaways and he creates these chances, but he just he hasn't been in this situation before at this level. And maybe he's panicking. I don't know. Both of the times that I can recall, he goes low and it just kind of an ugly shot that really has no chance of going in. Like I said, so he creates the opportunities. He doesn't really score on them. And he's also getting scratched more than most players should at this spot. Again, I don't know if you re-sign him, but where else is he going to go with this game film? Like, he really hasn't played much this season, hasn't put up many points. So I would say you could probably let him go.
Mark?
Yeah. To me, this is a project that the Boston Bruins are working on. The next one up, low risk, high reward type of player coming out of college. But I think the Bruins were looking at like a Justin Brazow type of path for a bigger player like him. But it's just not going according to plan, I believe. Not the way that Brazow rose through the coast, the always hungry, and now, never hungry. So, I don't know. I think he has good moments, but also he has some really bad moments too. So I would pass.
I just understood that reference, Mark. It took me a second. The coast to always hungry to never hungry. That was pretty funny. Parker, what are your thoughts on Jackson Nelson real quick?
Yeah, I agree with both guys here. I think you have to just the opportunity hasn't been there, and the execution has just been lacking as well. So don't bring him back.
John Farinacci. Okay, this is a weird one. He's a restricted free agent. He has a good wrist shot. I've seen it in the NHL and in the AHL. He can score. He can score a little bit. What are your thoughts on John Farinacci? Mark, I'll start with you.
A bit of a setback year, in my opinion. The first year, he said himself, was an adjustment period for him because coming from a college level to a professional level is a big jump in how many games you play. You know, traditionally the AHL plays 3 games in a weekend. NCAA is 2 games a week. So there's a lot to think about that. But I also thought that this year he would take a bigger step in saying that because he already had a full year of AHL pro experience. So I would take him back because I think that he's a valued prospect that can continue to develop and learn from players like Adam McQuaid on how to stabilize your body, how to take hits, give hits, and so on. I think he's a good center. It just needs to work. But the pieces are there. It's just putting them together is a different story. So I would take a chance.
Kenny?
Yeah, I wrote an article, one of my first here at B&G about John Farinacci, and I thought he was going to have, a big step-up season here. And you've definitely seen glimpses of it throughout the season of him just being like, oh, my God, this guy is real deal. But, I hope that he can get more consistent. But he's been good enough where I think he deserves, another opportunity here in Providence or in Boston.
Last one. Well, actually, there's a couple more in the AHL level, but this one might not be an AHLer much longer. This is Kenny's boy, Georgi Merkulov. Okay, Kenny, I already know your answer. Is it a yes?
I've talked to Dave about this, and we've talked extensively about this, and this is why I asked if he was going to be on, because I wanted to talk about this more. I don't even think it's up to the Bruins at this point. If Merk wants to leave to go to Russia, which I've seen, some Russian reports about that earlier in the year, it is criminal that they leave this guy down there. Like, I'm going to bite my tongue, but it is really criminal. Another 3-point night last night and the game-winning shootout goal. I mean, how much longer can we leave this guy down there, honestly?
Yeah, you brought up Patra. You can't leave Merkulov down there much longer. If it was up to me, I would re-sign him right now. Right now, if I had the choice, I would re-sign him yesterday. Make sure this guy is locked up because that is gonna be your future, one of your future pieces of your offense. I saw glimpses of it when he was here. This guy can create. And he's a scorer. I see it. And I watched last night. I was talking about this in the pre-show when we were all just kind of talking before the podcast. In the shootout last night against Springfield, a very Patrick Kane-esque move in the shootout. Lots of speed down the slot. Stops up, a little bit of stick handling, and then fools, I think his name's Zarenko, the Springfield goalie, something like that. Beat him far side. That is ridiculous. Merkulov, I am on the train of bringing back Merkulov, and I agree, criminal that he's down in the AHL. And with all due respect, the fact that Wahlstrom has an NHL roster spot over Merkulov is criminal in a lot of different places. Mark, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with that. And a lot of the fan rage about why he's not in the NHL and getting looks over players that aren't deserving. So, it seems very weird that the Bruins organization is doing this. They must see something in his game that they're not liking. And at this point, I'm more or less like agreeing with a lot of the writers out there that some of his mishaps may be okay and not something to like hamper on while thinking about NHL time. He's got to learn sooner or later. But I only want him up here if he's going to be consistent. If he's just going to be spot starts here and there, I'm not sure if I'm down with that. I'd much rather him stay consistent down in the American Hockey League. But if you have availability to keep him in the lineup, I do it. It's got to be more than 4 games. I don't think I saw a really good showing in his 4 games last year. This year, a little bit better, but not great. I would rather see a longer stretch, in a longer leash per se for a player like this.
Give him the Mark McLaughlin treatment. Give him extensive time in the NHL. Now, again, don't put him on the 4th line. He doesn't score on the 4th. He won't work there. But give him the treatment of, hey, he's going to be here for about a month and a half or 2 months. Let's see what he's got. Okay? McLaughlin was here from Thanksgiving to almost the New Year. Give him that stretch of time, 4 or 5 weeks, and then we can really judge. The fact he's producing this much in the AHL makes me think that he needs to come up to see if this transitions into the NHL. And if it does, Trent Frederic is losing his roster spot in a heartbeat right now. Same with Wahlstrom. They're shaking. Their boots are shaking because Merkulov is coming up from underneath.
Yeah, so, but Merkulov isn't going to shake any boots that Frederic provides on the ice and that intimidation factor. That's what's keeping him in the NHL right now.
Well, no, I'm saying that yes, Merkulov and Frederic don't play the same game. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they're going to Merkulov is hot, Frederic's not. On the sense.
Right. No,
that's what I mean.
I got
you. Well, I'm obviously incredibly biased towards anybody who's coming up from Providence, but I'm not I could see some of the flaws in Merkulov's game. Some of the elite passes will work at the next level, some of the goals and the assists that you see, but there's also some times where, maybe he sometimes has the puck for a little bit too long on the power play. And then sometimes, he's a really calm player, but sometimes it happens where he has the puck for so long that it gets to the point where he feels like he has to get rid of it. And then now he's trying to thread a pass that's not there. It's rare. I've seen it. And I'm like, is this the same guy? But also when he was called up, he was playing with Coyle and Frederic, 2 guys who were struggling mightily at the time. So you put him on that line, and then you kind of saw what he could do because Frederic had his best 3-game stretch of the season. That first game against St. Louis, he scored 2 goals. Merkulov had a nice assist. Even though Merkulov didn't get in on the scoring, he was still out on the ice. So, yeah, he doesn't play the same game as Frederic, but people are upset. They're like, oh, let's get a top 6 winger. We need a top 6 winger that's fast and skilled and can play on the power play. Well, we have one in Providence, so let's see. And if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out, and I'll keep my mouth shut. But you can't have a guy that goes from 55 points to 65 points, and then now is on pace for another 65-point season, and you keep him in the minors and you don't even give him a look. Come on now,
Parker.
Yeah, and Sam, you're gonna have to help me on this one, but it was the quote by, I think it was Cam Neely, a couple weeks ago, where it was the amount of mistakes made can't be greater than whatever the quote was. It was basically, you have to make sure you're not making more mistakes than what you're creating. And I think in my eyes, that quote was directed at 2 players down in the AHL, and maybe with the exception of 3. I think at that point Potter was down there too, right? So I think that's, in my eyes, what's keeping those 2 guys from coming up. But at the same time, I don't think it'll be for much longer.
It can't be. It can't be, especially with, Bear Force, I think it was Bear Force that nailed it. Can't outscore your mistakes. That was the quote. Yeah. But Bear Force nailed it. If anyone gets moved to the deadline, Merkulov should be the first man up. If they're not going to call him up until after the deadline, Merkulov's the first one I'm bringing up if they need to fill a roster spot. The first one. That's just my thoughts. Mark, do you agree with that?
No, I do agree with that. As somebody so offensively gifted, you got to give them an opportunity.
See what he's got. Hey, if it doesn't work, all right, great. Now we can move on from him. He's an RFA at the end of the season. But this kid, I don't think this is going to be an issue. I think it's going to work as long as they put him in a spot where he can succeed. I think it's going to work. Let's talk about Michael Callahan, who's now on the NHL roster as of the recording of this podcast. He is, as of yesterday, he was the second line left defenseman with Brandon Carlo. He's a UFA Group 6 at the end of the season. So, Mark, I'll start with you. What do you think about Callahan? What'd you bring him back?
Another player that if he sees the landscape and he finds a fit, and the Bruins can talk him into re-signing, then absolutely I would do it. Good depth defenseman. Obviously, he's showing what he can do when given the opportunity at the NHL level. But yeah, I mean, I would keep him just for added depth and providence if he's willing to stay another year in the American Hockey League. And be ready at a moment's notice as an emergency player. Or, you got to pull for a player like this that wants to stay in the NHL. So if he can find opportunities elsewhere, then good on him and his agent as well. So, I'm completely on the fence with him. I think he serves a good purpose, not only at the NHL level, but also in the lower depths of development.
And I think this could all depend on if Parker Wotherspoon returns next year. He is an expiring contract, because if Wotherspoon doesn't return, Callahan, he could be your 7th defenseman.
Totally agree, Sam. I almost called you Max. I don't know why.
Max?
Yeah.
Where'd you get Max from?
I don't know. Sorry.
No, but but hey, Callahan looks good. He looks serviceable. We need some of that right now. I mean, I'd take him over Osterley as your 7th defenseman right now.
10 times over.
Kenny, do you agree with that?
Yeah, and this really doesn't come to much surprise of anybody who's watched Providence this season. I mean, he beat out Vinny Lettieri for an All-Star spot. And this is what I like about the AHL All-Star game. It's not selected by fans. It's selected by coaches. So people that are watching these guys game after game. And I mean, Callahan has 7 points, and Vinny was 3rd in scoring in the AHL, and he beat out the 3rd leading scorer. So how I saw it was Callahan plays better defense than Vinny plays offense, which is incredible. But I mean, this is what the Bruins needed, was just a sound defenseman, and he's playing so well. Why not give him another shot here if he wants to stay?
Yeah, absolutely. Parker?
Yeah, sort of to parrot it again, but he's earned his spot, especially these last couple games. Like, you've really seen him step up, and I think if there is a fit, you bring him back. If he decides to go elsewhere, it's a tough loss, but it's, once again, not the end of the world, because there's not much spot for him right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's get to consistent NHLers. This is where the conversation picks up a little bit, because now we're looking at the NHL roster. First one, a big topic of discussion, Mason Lohrei. He is projected, according to AFP Analytics, to get a 2-year extension at $3 million per season. That's what AFP would project him at. Would you go, first of all, would you bring him back? And secondly, would you go higher, lower, or right on? Mark?
Right on. And yes, I would resign him. He's a project, a blue line project that the Bruins can't afford to get rid of right now, because you really don't have any player like him in the development depths. But yeah, I would stay right on. That's a nice little bridge deal. As the cap's going up a little bit, show a little confidence in the player shows a little confidence in the organization. And then if he plays that much better during those 2 years, negotiate for a bigger, longer contract. But I think that would be the perfect way to go for both sides.
I agree with that, because he's young. He still has a lot of developing to do, right? He's still young. He's still growing. His game's still growing. Didn't have a ton of AHL time, so he's kind of developing his game in the NHL. And I'm seeing.
And he hasn't been a defenseman that long.
Yeah, and I'm seeing more good than bad. So, Kenny, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's perfect, really. I mean, it's a nice bridge deal. And, for defensemen, especially younger defensemen, it takes time, to get to that level. It's nothing that he's doing wrong. It's just he needs to play more games and play more shifts and be out on the ice more. It's just how it is. he's going to need 100, 150 games to see where, his game develops to. And I think that this is the perfect opportunity to sign a guy who has the potential to be, maybe even a top 2 pairing defenseman later on in his career. So I think it's great.
Parker?
So the segment is resign, keep, or resign, let walk, or trade. I'm curious to know if you guys would trade Mason Lohrei.
No.
Mm-mm.
Depends on the package. To be honest with you, if something if somebody said Draisaitl was coming back and he was involved, yes, I would in a heartbeat if he was in the package for a player like that. But
it would have to be. It would have to be a superstar.
Yeah,
Would
yeah.
Elias Pettersson or JT Miller be of interest?
No,
I don't know if I want that drama over on the East Coast, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? I'm all for talent and everything, but if talent goes to another organization and brings the typical drama on each side as a veteran and a younger player, and I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm for that, and if the Boston Bruins current roster is willing to absorb some of that and try to filter everything out to be back on track with their culture and how a player should be. So I'm not sure. I do like their talents. I'm not going to say, they're not talented players, but I'm not sure if we want that baggage. This isn't the Patriots.
Kenny?
No, I don't think you trade him. I think we're right at the point where you can see what you really have here. Next season's going to be a huge put up or shut up season for him, I think. And if we can get him re-signed, I'm well, like Mark said, if we could get a guy like Leon Draisaitl back, okay. But I mean, other than that, this is like where we draft and then develop in college and then in Providence. Like we are right on the brink, I feel like, of getting rewarded for all that time that you put into a player. I don't think we should let go right now.
I especially agree with the way the power play has looked under Lohrei. The first unit looking miles better with Lohrei there than McAvoy, which is why, okay, you could agree to disagree, Mason Lohrei should still be QB1 on the power play and have McAvoy run the second unit.
Agreed.
That's what I think. It looks so much better with Lohrei, and I'm not understanding why. It was one switch because of an injury, but it looks just like so much better. So I would bring him back, and I would keep him where he is in that spot, and maybe he would be a top defenseman next year or down the line. Maybe he'll be in his position to play with McAvoy. I think he should be playing with McAvoy more. Justin Brazeau. This is an interesting one. They're projecting him at a 2-year deal at 1.4 per season. Would you bring him back, and would you go higher, lower, or right on? For me, I would bring him back, and I would go higher. I would go 2x2. That's what I would do. Mark?
Yes. I'm totally on board with bringing him back. I like the 2 years. I like the $2 million that you're saying, Sam. But I would like to do it in a 4-year term.
Ooh.
So if he would agree, you could fluctuate with the cap hit. So if you go 4 years, go up to 2.5. Okay. I think that's a player that would absolutely accept that. And here's the reasoning why. Is because you don't have a player like this with the passion, the work ethic to play in the minor pros right now in the developing depths to climb those levels to the NHL. I think that is going to have to be something that's going to be a continued work in progress with some of the lower prospects in the organization right now. But you already have that internally. Why not keep it? He's 26 years old. It'll bring him to 32. I think that'll be perfect for him and the organization. Yes, people are going to hamper on his speed. I understand that. But let me tell you something. The guy gets from the bench to the net pretty fucking fast. Excuse my language.
Ooh.
So, and that's something that I'm not seeing anywhere in the ECHL, the AHL right now in the Bruins organization, I would keep him. And the players like him. He loves what he's doing. You can see he's just absorbing this opportunity because this is something he's worked very hard as an undrafted player where a lot of people did not look at because of his speed factor.
I'm with you. Parker, what are your thoughts on Brazo? 2 years at 1.4. Higher, lower, or resign or trade?
I'm with you, Sam. I had 2x2. I think to Mark's point about 4x2.5, I'm not, or 2.5 by 4 years. I'm not convinced you want to lock up a guy for multiple years because we've seen it in the past where if you extend a guy for too long, it always ends up seeming to bite you. So I think 2 years, and if he plays the same role he does now, you'll probably get him for the other 2 years after that at maybe 2.5 or 2. Because I don't expect him to, all of a sudden go from a good season this year to an even better, like that much better next year. So I think, you're sort of looking at a consistent effort from him, which he's been for most of his career, right? Where he's not going to be a guy that's going to put up, 70 goals in a season. He's going to be a good player who's going to play a full, 200-foot game, and that's his key. So I think you put basically another bridge deal here. You go 2x2, and then you evaluate it in 2 years.
Kenny?
Yeah, I think 2x2 would be fine, but I also think that you want to check out the market a little bit. And I think the Bruins should be selling. There's absolutely no way that this team should be buying with the way that this team is playing right now. But I think if you don't deal them, then you could definitely bring them back. The only thing is, like, with 4 years, like, you got to look 4 years down the line. Like, is this guy going to be what you expect, or is this guy going to be, is there a chance that he's not going to be what you're paying him? Because we are getting like screwed right now with the production that we're getting from some of these players. And I'm just going to say this, like, there's no shot that anybody should be getting a no movement clause. Like, we are getting just screwed right now by that. Like, we cannot move anybody. So then now we're getting put in these situations where we have to move a guy like Geekie because we have nobody else to move, like, and we have to sell. So that's kind of where I stand on it. If you don't move him, you definitely re-sign him. I don't know about 4 years, but I think I'd be comfortable at 2x2.
That's fair.
Cole Koepke. Okay, this is an interesting one. It's the first one where I'm kind of hesitant on bringing them back. Okay, they have him projected at 1 year at 1.1. Hot start to the season, has kind of cooled off since. I'm on the fence. I wouldn't trade him, but I'm not sure if I would bring him back next season. I'm not sure. I like him. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure if I'm convinced to see more of him after this season. I'll start with you, Parker. What do you think?
I think you bring him back. I think you bring him back at 1 million for a year. If he wants to come back, otherwise, I think you let him go to another team and let him be a fourth liner on somewhere else.
Kenny?
I mean, I would say that you can look at trades, and then I probably wouldn't re-sign him. I just think that I'm obviously, like I said, I'm going to say it again, I'm extremely biased, but like I think he's one of those players that's like, kind of stuffing up prospects moving up right now. So I think like there's really no need. And he's a guy that you can, like, there's a ton of players right now. I think there was a ton of players in Providence that could play that role. I mean, he's not doing anything really incredible right now. So I think you could let him go.
Mark, what are your thoughts on Koepke?
Yeah, same here. I think that, like Zach Haste said, Koepke is replaceable. Brings a little physicality to his game, not a fighter and so on in that sense, but as fringe NHL player that got a chance, but I wouldn't bring him back just because of the depth. And it's either who do you want to invest in at this point? Do you want to invest in Koepke, or do you want to invest in somebody that you drafted and home grew, like a guy like John Beecher?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Could be an opportunity for somebody like Kuntar next year if they bring him back. We'll see.
True.
Vinny Lettieri. Kenny, I'll start with you.
Vinny's a guy that I would definitely bring back. I mean, I've been able to watch him in Providence, and I mean, even if like I said, I don't know if he's going to want to come back because he is an NHL talent. The year before he played in Minnesota for basically the whole season, and then now comes to Boston, is put right down in the minors and proves why he's not an AHL guy. If we can keep him, I would definitely keep him, and I would slot him in. Like I don't know. I don't think he has to be, top 6 guy. So I think he would be great for depth, and he's great at the AHL level, and he's a leader. So there's no reason not to bring him back, I think.
Parker?
Yeah, I completely agree with it, especially with what we've seen these last, couple games where he's really shown himself, not just on the score sheet, but also in his full game. So I think for a guy like Lettieri, you definitely have to bring him back.
Mark?
Yes. Who are we talking about?
Lettieri.
I would for the factor of if he doesn't make the NHL club, he'll most likely pass through waivers and again be that asset to a developing forward down in Providence if available. And if like a player like Patrick Brown happens to move on, Vinny Lettieri could easily slip right into your team captain. That's the type of player he is. That's how well regarded he is down from the Providence Bruins coaching staff and down to the players as well. So I'd keep him around.
Okay. I'd bring him back for another year too. Just for a 1 year deal and just see where that takes him. Okay. Johnny Beecher. They haven't projected at 2 years at 1.7. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I love him at the face-off dot. I don't love anywhere else of his game right now. I'd be looking at the market. I would look for a trade at this point. I would. Now, he's not going to be a 20 goal scorer. I'm not saying that, but I feel like I'm seeing more bad than good in his game. I feel like he turns over the puck a little too much. I feel like he kind of wanders around. I feel like he puck watches a little too much for my liking. Maybe because he's young, I don't know. But to me, right now, if you were to ask me right now, I wouldn't bring him back. I would look for a trade. That's my personal opinion. I know I'm going to get flamed on it. That's fine. I get flamed on a daily basis with my takes. I don't see a ton right now. I would personally look for a trade. If they were to decide to bring him back, I wouldn't be opposed. I wouldn't do 1.7. I would do something more like 1.1, 1.2. A little bump up from league minimum, or 925 is what he's getting right now. That's just my take on it. Parker, what do you think?
Sam, to your point, and you said that they should trade him. What do you like about John Beecher?
His face-offs.
And what else?
Nothing.
So the problem becomes is what team is going to trade much value for him, right? So I think in my eyes, you bring him back, you say, I'm going to give you a 1 year deal, go earn your contract, right? And he's coming up on an arbitration year. So, and once again, what do you like about him? Face-offs. So he's probably not going to get much in terms of arbitration. So I think personally, you put him on a 1 year deal and you say, go earn your paycheck for next year.
That's also very fair. I would be fine with that for like a put up or shut up year. That's fine. But I'm kind of on the fence. I'm kind of like, okay, if you give him a 1 year deal to kind of prove himself, great. But if they trade him, that's also fine too. I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm so sad Beecher's gone. I won't be that upset. But I'll also be like, all right, let's give this kid a shot if he has 1 more year. Let's see it. Mark, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with you, Sam. Same thing. I would do 1 year at $1 million, and it's a prove it. And if he doesn't do that in the first 50 some odd games next season, you move him. But if you can't move him now in a package for something, I I would give him an opportunity to stick around. But he's an RFA with arbitration rights, so the team does have a little bit of wiggle room with a player like him. So we'll see what happens. But I still believe in his capabilities. I'm not saying that he's a total bust or anything like that. I hate saying that, but I think that he deserves one more year. I think.
That's very fair. I'm not saying he's a complete bust. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's not enough right now. We're not seeing enough. I'll add one more thing that I like about Beecher besides his face-offs. His speed. That's it. Face-offs and speed. All right, it's the only thing I like about him.
I knew you'd come around, Sam.
First round pick.
First round, great. Awesome. One of the rarities under Sweeney. Anyways, Kenny, what are your thoughts on Johnny Beecher? Would you bring him back? Would you trade him? Would you go higher or lower than 1.7?
Definitely lower than 1.7. I mean, that's like, I would probably pay Brazeau 1.7. I mean, 1.7 is definitely definitely high. And I'm kind of stuck because, Beecher is good, but I think that a lot of the hype that's around him and a lot of people want to hold him is just because he was a first round pick. And I'm watching Providence right now, and their best player is an undrafted free agent. And I feel like part of the reason he's not getting a chance is because Lysell's a first round pick, or not getting a chance. But I feel like, they kind of throw them together in the same boat when they're two completely different players. I mean, watching John Beecher play has been, it's been rocky for sure. I mean, this guy like missing open nets. I mean, that's stuff that can't happen when you're a fourth liner who doesn't get those opportunities. You have to score. I mean, he's one of those prospects that I would like to throw into a big deal. I don't know who would want him, but if we're gonna deal a younger guy like that, I don't want it to be Lohrei. I don't want it to be Patra or Merkulov or Lysell. I'd rather it be John Beecher. So I definitely test the market. I don't know what he's gonna get. If it's not good enough, keep him around for another season. Whatever.
I'm with you, 100%. I agree with all you guys about that. I just think either a 1x1, prove it, a prove it or shove it year, or you trade him. Maybe you can get a pick back, or you can use him as a package to go get something bigger. We'll see. All right. I think I have a universal answer for all of us on Oliver Wahlstrom. Put him on waivers.
Yeah.
I'm not like the goalie scored against Florida. Freaking great. Awesome. What have you done for me lately? Nothing. He hasn't been he's been the 13th forward. He's been out of the lineup for like a few games now. He hasn't played since Monday. Why is he still here? A genuine question. I'm not seeing a lot. It's a $1 million cap hit for the rest of the season. They have him at a 1 year at league minimum. We know damn well that Wahlstrom's not going to take a pay cut to stay here with an inconsistent role. We know for a fact that's not going to happen. Okay?
Yeah.
Mark, I'll start with you. Would you sign him or would you get rid of him? And I'm on the board of getting rid of him.
Yeah, I'm all for saving the funds that would be needed to retain a player like this and move it to somebody else or an area of need. You took a chance on him with the waiver process. I don't know. I just haven't seen much. I get the New England ties. I get that he was a Bruins fan. The 360 goal, which is just ad nauseum at this point. But yeah, I just haven't seen enough that would urge me to go out and re-sign this guy.
It's crazy. The fact that we're still talking, his most iconic moment in TD Garden was a goal he scored 15 years ago. And not something he's done recently.
Hey, you got to come full circle sooner or later, Sam.
He hasn't scored in the Garden in the NHL as a Bruin yet, so bye-bye. All due respect, we can't be letting this 2010 goal keep him on the NHL roster. It just can't happen. He hasn't played a lot, and what I've seen out of him, it's not been great. I mean, he has a good shot, good playmaking ability. He doesn't fit the Bruins core right now. He's in and out of the lineup, and there's a reason why. Parker?
Yeah, no, I think it's important to realize why Wahlstrom's here. You know, the Bruins took a chance. Actually, I think you guys were live for that, right? Because I think we
You
had
were live on the podcast when Wahlstrom was we claimed him, and then you put a waiver, you put a thing in like 30 seconds after it happened. You already had it pre-made. That was funny.
But that's the thing, right? It was a move that at the time was you should go. Everyone was in agreement that you should go out and get this guy. I don't think anyone's saying that anymore, and I think, you know, you took a chance. The chance didn't work. It's time to move on, and I think most people are in agreement with that.
Kenny?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna say I'm a proud New Englander, but the pride of Weymouth and the 360 goal, like that has no like effect on me. Like I don't care. Now listen, if I scored a goal like that at TD Garden, I'd be telling my grandkids. So it keeps coming up, but that's gonna happen. It's been, when he made the NHL, it came up. That stuff it's always gonna follow him. But I mean, just it's incredible that every night I have to watch Providence Bruins hockey and watch 6 guys that are just so much better and deserve a chance over Wahlstrom. It's insane. And it's whatever at this point. We took the risk, right? I mean, there wasn't really much risk, but we took a chance. Didn't work out. Why is this guy still here? Honestly.
Good question. Mark?
Yeah, I'm all set with Wahlstrom. I just haven't seen enough, to be honest with you. And that spot wherever he's at the NHL level is more deserving of a prospect down in Providence.
Okay, this is going to cause a lot of controversy. I put out a tweet yesterday, and people didn't like that. It's Morgan Geekie. All right? People didn't like the fact that I said they should keep him. All right? Right now, he's making $2 million. AFP says his next contract's going to be 4 years at 3.2. Would you sell? Would you keep him? Would you go higher, lower, right on the money? I'll start with Parker, who's smiling. I think they should keep him. What do you think they should do?
So Geekie reminds me of, so I'm from Canada, I'm from Toronto, which means I am constantly berated by Leafs fans. And it reminds me of a couple of years ago when there was 2 players going for free agency. It was Andreas Johnsson and Kasperi Kapanen. And the question was, do we keep William Nylander or do we keep Kapanen and Johnsson? And of course they went with Nylander, and Johnsson and Kapanen are wherever they are now. I think Kapanen's with Pittsburgh. I think Johnsson might be in the AHL system somewhere. But it reminded me a lot of Morgan Geekie because those 2 players, Johnsson and Kapanen, were very, very good with the players they were playing alongside. But as soon as they went elsewhere, their game just went down just because of the fact that they weren't playing with the same players that made them that good. And I think it's very similar with Geekie in his role today with the Bruins, especially what we've seen from him. We'll talk about him in a little bit. But his role especially the last couple games, you're putting him alongside players that he's going to succeed with. I think that's the trick for this Bruins team. Yes, he's going to arbitration, 4 years by 3.2. I don't agree with that number. I think you do another bridge deal. You go, maybe 1 or 2 years and then see what he can do from there. But I think you keep Geekie around because if you get rid of him, it's not a guarantee that he's going to continue his success.
Kenny?
I think that the Bruins should sell, because if you sell and you make the playoffs, great. If you sell, you don't make the playoffs, it's whatever. You probably weren't going to make the playoffs anyways. But if you're not selling, if you're buying or you're staying the same and you don't make the playoffs, like that cannot happen. We can't go this season without getting something in return. We either need to make a deep run or we need to get prospects. And I think this is one of the guys that I'm like, these no movement clauses are kind of handcuffing us right now. And this is one of the guys that kind of gets, put out there because of that. And I just want to say, like, a few months ago, we were praying for this time, like where Geekie and Frederic were upping their value. And at the end of the day, what I liked so much about Geekie is he could play on, 3 lines. But the way he's playing right now, with Pasta, like if he gets taken off that line, is he going to be producing the same? I don't know. So I would say you have to at least look. You have to try to ship him off while his value is high. That's what I think. You have to sell.
Mark?
Yeah, I'm on the fence with this one. I would like to see him retained. I'm not sure at 4 years. $3 million is a nice little bump. I think he was making $2 million when he got here. Yeah, I would keep Geekie, but also if available in a package and it garners a return, I wouldn't be opposed to trading him either.
I don't agree with the number or the year. I would do 3x3. Honestly, I would do 3x3 for Geekie. I think he's earned that. I want to. Okay. If you give him,
Sam's thinking.
If you give him, yeah, it's a bad idea. Usually, bad stuff happens when I start thinking. Okay. If you give Geekie a 1-year deal to prove himself, you give him the Johnny Beecher treatment. That's not a good thing. But if you give Geekie a 3-year deal and it doesn't pan out, that's also not a good thing, right? But I don't want to get rid of him either. I feel like that would not go well. I feel like that would bite. With all due respect, I think that would bite the Bruins in the ass if they do get rid of him right now. Because literally, he is the entire offense right now. He and Pastrnak are the entire Bruins offense. If you sell him right now, do you want to not score the rest of the season? Genuine question.
And no disrespect to Geekie, but how sad is the conversation that we're having right now if we're talking about that?
Yeah, right. Exactly. No. No. I'm keeping him. I'm keeping him. I wouldn't do 4 at 3.25, but I'm keeping him for a 3x3. That's what I'm doing. If it would have to be another part of like a Draisaitl deal where he has to go into the deal to sell it. Only reason I'd even think about it. I just don't. I think it would cost them. I genuinely think it would cost them. Man, I don't know. I mean, I guess I could see the point of, what happens if he's not playing with Pastrnak? I get it. But we saw a little bit of that last year. He wasn't playing with Pastrnak, and he was still scoring decently. He was playing with Coyle. He was playing with Marchand for a bit, and he was still scoring. He was on the third line with Frederic. He was still scoring. So he had, 19 goals last year? Something like that? Like, he already has 15. We're barely halfway through the year. I don't think you can sell on this guy right now. I think you have to keep him around, in my personal opinion. We move on to Trent Frederic. 2.3 a season is the current cap hit. They have him projected at 4x3.9. That is, with all due respect, laughable. Kenny, I'll start with you. Would you keep him? Would you sell him? Would you go higher or lower? What are you thinking?
This is laughable to me, this whole situation, because I wrote an article earlier in the year if we should sign Frederic, and people were calling me stupid, like, oh, yeah, we're definitely re-signing Frederic, and now we're getting to this point, and it's like, there's just no way. There's no way. I heard they were in talks with the contract, and it's great, and I know that he brings something else to the lineup, but I think that we get that something else on the fourth line, and we get it someplace else that doesn't have to take up a spot. And again, I am so biased, but I would move Frederic because I think that Merkulov deserves a spot here. I mean, it is like, it's unbelievable, really. So when people ask, who are you going to move? I'd say move Frederic. I just, like, what if this keeps happening? And this is the same thing with Geekie. Like, Geekie's value is so high right now that it's like, what if he stops performing? And then we sign him to this big deal. Like, we lost more than just the money. We had so much more. We could have traded for whatever picks or anything, and now he's not producing, and now we're on the hook. We cannot be on the hook for this guy if this is how he's going to keep producing. And I haven't seen anything this season that says that we should be re-signing him, honestly.
I agree. I'm on the board of trading him at this point. Free up a spot for Merkulov or somebody from Providence. Merkulov's the first one. Parker?
I'm very much on the fence about this. Like, I personally feel you definitely there's an argument to be made about keeping Frederic around, and there's also an argument to trade him, right? And I think at the very least you want to get something out of him. So whether it is through trade or whether you keep him around for another year, I think if you get to that point at the deadline where you don't get what you're looking for, I'm not opposed to keeping him around, but I also realize that there's other players coming up. So, it's not I must trade Frederic, but I do think that he's definitely a player the Bruins should be shopping.
Mark?
Yeah. I could see him re-signed, but at a much lower value because I don't think he deserves a raise per se. But if somebody came with a first round, second round pick, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Because there's multiple avenues when I'm thinking about Trent Frederic and where he is next season in this group. Number one, I mean, yeah, he could be retained, like I said, at lower. If he's gone, he opens up a roster spot to a guy like Merkulov or somebody that's knocking on the NHL door for more consistent time. And also, obviously, you relieve the cap hit to address other needs. So, I would move him if the right price comes. That's just me though.
I would move him too. Okay, this is the most wild projection for a contract I've ever seen. It's Brad Marchand. He's currently making 6.1. AFP says they would do 3 years at 7.5. Okay. This is wild. Were the people who are doing these analytic projections drunk? Okay, genuine question. Were they drunk? Off their mind? I would bring Marchand back if he wants to come back. I think he's earned the Bergeron treatment. You take it year by year, it's up to him. I think he's earned that. Parker, what do you think about that?
I think he's earned another year, but 7.5. Like, I get the caps going up, but I don't think at 7.5. And I mean, the question I think then gets raised is what's gonna happen with Marchand? Because if you can't trade Marchand, I know a lot of people are calling to trade Marchand, but if you trade Marchand, you might as well trade Pasternak because Pasternak, McAvoy, those guys aren't going to want to sit around and rebuild for 4, 5, 6 years, right? So unless you can get a real good package for Marchand, I don't see a team that's going to trade skill player for skill player, especially, and we saw it the other day with Rantanen, right? Like a team is going to walk out unhappy when you're trading a top player. So I don't think Marchand is the player to trade, but I do think, you have to keep him around. He's your captain. You shouldn't trade him. But at this point, if he's coming at 7.5, I don't know.
Bring him back at a lower AAV and a 1-year deal at a time is what I would do. Kenny?
I was thinking he was going to take like a team-friendly deal. That was, maybe I'm wrong for assuming that. He's still a great player, though. He's still playing well, and I think that we shouldn't really knock him for that beginning of the season because how well would you play if you had 3 surgeries in the offseason and you're just getting back to the ice? I mean, and now look at him. I mean, there's an excuse for the first portion of the season, and now he's playing up to the Brad Marchand that we know he can play, and I just think that if he wants to stay, I would be like. I would want to re-sign him. I would be hurt if he left. I do not want to see Brad Marchand wearing any other uniform in the NHL.
Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see him back, but I would rather see 1-year deals moving forward, much like how the Charas, the Bergerons all did it towards the end of their career. I wouldn't invest multiple years into a player like this just because of his age and so on and what he's been through. And 7.5 is just way too much. I don't care if you're a captain and you're going to the Hockey Hall of Fame. That's just too much, in my opinion. If you said that 5 years ago, I might be all on board with that, but not now. I'm really curious on how he plays at the Four Nations tournament and how much that tournament and his participation rise his stock in trade value. Because players, much like Trent Frederic, which you just talked about, there are teams out there that are going to overpay for players in trade value to get that grindy playoff nastiness on their team as they look to march up the playoff route to a Stanley Cup. And if he's moved, if it's for the right price, I would do it. I would absolutely hate it. Kenny, I agree. He's been a Bruin his whole life. He should retire a Bruin. I absolutely agree with that. But when it comes down to business and an opportunity comes up and you need to pull a trigger on something and it's really good to move him, then I would do that as well. In my opinion, the culture needs a culture change. And I think that that's going to happen once all of these players that were around from the 2011 Stanley Cup raising moment are gone. That's an unfortunate thing to say. I know it's going to come off way, way wrong to a lot of viewers and listeners out there. But to me, that's just how it is.
So that was our really extended conversation. We had almost 45 minutes talking about that. I did not think we were going to do that. We're going to be having a long pod today. All right.
Sorry, guys.
We're halfway through the show, and we're almost at 2 hours. Oh boy, we're in for a hell of a time. All right, let's talk about the Providence Bruins. We're trying to just talk about them earlier. Let's talk about them again. I want to hit Georgi Merkulov and Fabian Lysell and how well they've been playing. If we pull up the graphic here, Merkulov has played 37 games for Providence, 11 goals, 27 assists. He's averaging just over a point a game in Providence. He has a +6 rating on the season, while Fabian Lysell has 33 games played, 8 goals, 17 assists for 25 points. He has a +9. Mark, I'll start with you. What are we seeing out of Merkulov and Lysell right now?
Yeah, I mean, just players that continue to want to be in the NHL, one more than others. I think Merkulov is that type of player that, the NHL needs, the NHL Bruins need right now. I think that just the way he's a point per game player, he adds a lot of value. As many can see if you're watching on the YouTube, some of his goals and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I would much rather have Merkulov up than Lysell at this point. Sorry, I'm fumbling my words because I'm a little confused.
Kenny?
Yeah, right now, like I said earlier, people put Merkulov and Lysell in that same conversation, but their situations are drastically different. Lysell is really streaky in my opinion. Sometimes he has a good stretch and then sometimes he's transparent. But I do give him credit. This has been a difficult point in the season for Providence. They lost a lot of leadership and they lost a lot of goal scoring. I mean, when I was, writing articles for the past weekend, I was just so happy for the team that the scoring started to kind of even out throughout the lineup. I thought that when, Patra, Merkulov, and Lettieri were on the same line, that line had most of the scoring just there. Everybody was relying on that line. And when they didn't show up or they only got 1 or 2 points each, the team would lose. And Lysell has had, a few pretty good games since coming back from illness. But I want to just touch on the point. I know the stats going around 11 points in his last 7 games, which is impressive. But I think it's more impressive that Merkulov has 8 points in his last 5 games, because those 5 games he's been without his season-long line mate, Vinny Lettieri, who's been huge this season. And then he's been without his 2-month-long teammate of Matt Patra. So he's kind of getting thrown into the situation where he was playing with Jones and Lysell. He's only played with those guys once or twice this season. And then the weekend where he's still producing a point per game, he was without Lysell as well. So it's just, I was a little bit concerned. I was like, I don't know how Merkulov is going to play without those guys, because obviously they feed off of each other. But it's clear that Merkulov could play without those guys. He is producing by himself, really. I mean, you watch some of the goals, like in Syracuse. Like I said, I was concerned, but then first period he wins the draw back to Edward. Edward puts a low shot on net, and then Merkulov gets under his guy and outworks his guy to the net and then tucks it in. And I'm like, okay, that is Merkulov being Merkulov and doing everything on that goal. He did everything on that goal. He started it, and this happened last night as well. He pushed the puck up ice with one hand to Lysell, and then Tufte did a good job driving to the net and taking one of the defenders, and then Merkulov did a good job getting open. It's just, that's the type of stuff that I'm like, wow, like this guy's ready, and this is why I'm so aggravated that we're not seeing him. I mean, how many more points does he need he's doing it basically by himself at this point. It's just, it's criminal that guys like Wahlstrom have spots over Merkulov, and I'm not trying to be, whatever to Wahlstrom, but I mean, it's hard. It's hard watching this guy do what he's doing in Providence and not getting a fair shake. It's unbelievable.
I completely agree with that. Let's move the conversation from Merkulov and Lysell to the goalies in Providence, Brandon Bussi and Michael DiPietro. DiPietro has been he just got announced as one of the AHL All-Stars. He's going out to San Jose, right, to go play in the AHL All-Star Classic this year.
Coachella Valley.
Coachella Valley. My apologies. Here is the their stats on the season. DiPietro 15-5-3 with 4 shutouts, a 1.87 goals against average, and a .933 save percentage. That is just bonkers. All right. And then we have Brandon Bussi, who's 8-8-1. Although he's bouncing back. He had a good night against Springfield last night. 3 shutouts for him on the year, 3 goals against average, and a .897 goals percentage, a save percentage on the season for Bussi. Kenny, I'll start with you. What have you seen out of both DiPietro and Bussi this season?
When I watched DiPietro in the preseason, he looked his size. He looked like a smaller goalie. He was giving up goals like a smaller goalie, and I was concerned going into the year. I didn't know how that was going to play. But then he comes down to Providence, and you would have no clue this guy was 6'1". You would have no idea because he plays so big. And that's what you see with these smaller goalies, is just how technically sound they are. I mean, it is unbelievable the games that he has kept the team in so far this season. And I just want to touch on Bussi. Like, I'm not going to make excuses. Like, the beginning of the season was definitely rocky for him, but some of these games that he's lost are just kind of like unbelievable. Last night, giving up, the 2 goals back to back. I mean, one goes off the glass and then bounces back out in front of the net, and then the other one was just a beautiful pass behind the net. It's just, and then again, like the game in Hershey where he's having a fantastic first period, making a ton of nice saves, and then they go into an hour and 45-minute break to pick up the teddy bears. I mean, it's just, some of it's unlucky, and then some of it is, it's just been tough, especially for him because, we all expected him to start the season in Boston, and I'm sure he thought the same, and then he gets kind of blindsided last second there. But, the beginning of the season, if you take out the first few starts, that stat looks so much better for Bussi, and DiPietro keeps doing his thing. So that, and like I said earlier, having 2 goalies in that tandem is huge at the AHL level. When you're playing 3-3 is like the Bruins are playing this weekend, it's great to have, a strong goalie start and then have Bussi go, who's also strong, and then have DiPietro cap it off. And it seems to be working for the team.
Mark, what are your thoughts on the goalie tandem in Providence of Brandon Bussi and Michael DiPietro?
Well, both of them have been red hot lately. There's no doubt about that. Brandon has obviously had his issues at the beginning of the year. But, any young player like him is going to have a down year where they work on some different things. They get adjusted to different things. It's all about development. And I understand that he's an older developing player at 26 years old. But this is the appropriate time for Brandon Bussi to turn his game around and be involved in one of the better tandems lately in the American Hockey League, alongside with Michael DiPietro. Brandon is really good at the down low action, the shots. He covers so much of the net with his big body. His squareness is getting much better. His game is just really turned around, and he's putting in more of an effort to put the beginning of the season away from him and look forward to the future. And these two, particularly for the last month, have really bought in. And so has the team as well. But a big due of credit is on this tandem for turning it around, because if you don't have good goaltending, no matter what league, you're not going to be successful. And these two have proven that they could do it at this level. And I'm really curious to see where this team stands, because right now, like we said in several podcasts before, the Providence Bruins did not start their season off on the right foot. It was a very roller coaster, bipolar type of season. But traditionally with this team, once the midseason comes around, you could see a lot of change, a lot of effort in turning things around and wanting to get back into a Calder Cup playoff picture. So these two are really driving the ship right now, and the defense needs to step it up a little bit more moving forward, along with the offense. But the shutout streak ended at 3 games. It's been phenomenal. If anybody has the Flow Hockey, package, and all our videos that we share are courtesy of Flow Hockey, so we want to give them the credit. Obviously, we have a nice partnership with them. But I mean, they're going to go as far as these two can bring them, to be honest with you. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing out of both goaltenders. And these two could definitely get some good thank you games at the end of the year, if and when the Bruins are in a position to do so. If they secure a wild card or higher position, I would give these guys each a game as a thank you, a little taste, and go into the summer negotiating for a longer term.
Yeah,
I wouldn't hate it, to be honest with you. So the Providence Bruins are in action tonight. They face off against the Laval Rocket at 3:05 p.m. The Providence Bruins are on a 5-game winning streak, but Laval is 3-0 against Providence this season, and the Rocket are 5-0 against Providence in the last 5 seasons when these two AHL teams face each other. So the Providence Bruins do have a big test this afternoon, but to keep that winning style going and reach 6 games, it's going to be a good game, and that's at the AMP in downtown Providence. So if you have the Flow Hockey package, tune in. Along with everybody on this panel, we'll all be watching it. Kenny Comiskey right here. That guy is a video sharing monster. So give him a follow on Twitter for all his Providence Bruins goals and big saves from the goaltenders.
absolutely. All the footage you just watched on the video feed is available, was courtesy of Flow Hockey. Thank you to Flow Hockey for letting us use that footage here on the pod here today and going forward.
Speaking of the Providence Bruins, after this game, they are off to Cleveland, Ohio, and that means I'm off too. I am traveling to Cleveland to cover the 2 games next Friday night at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse in downtown Cleveland. Got my hotel all booked at the Hilton, and I'm ready to rock and roll. Literally, I'm going to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. To check that out. But I'm going out there. And if anybody in Cleveland area that lives close by is going to be nearby, stop by, let me know. I'll buy you a beer. We'll muck it up for a little bit in the Lake Erie region. So I'm really excited to get out there. I'm leaving on Wednesday afternoon, arriving in Cleveland at 4:00 a.m. So I'm ready to literally rock and roll.
That sounds like a blast. That is also the home of the NBA's Cleveland Cavaliers. That's a big arena for an AHL team.
And listen to this. I've never been to an NBA game. I don't like basketball at all. But if it is that boring in Cleveland, I might go to the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse and actually sit and watch an NBA game on Thursday night with my downtime.
That would be hilarious to see.
So somebody save me from buying a ticket to a Cleveland Cavs game and have a beer with me. Let's talk hockey up at the Hilton freaking bar up at the top of the Hilton, overlooking the beautiful Lake Erie.
That should actually be a good game. They're playing the Hawks on Thursday nights. That should actually be interesting. The Cavaliers are 36-9. Woo-hoo! Man, they're a wagon right now. So have fun out in Cleveland. And are you going to be doing the pod remotely from Cleveland next week?
I'm thinking about it. That's still
Right.
a work in progress, so I will let you guys know. Obviously, it's going to depend on the Hilton's internet service, so we'll see.
All right. Well, hopefully you'll be able to join us next week for episode 380 of the podcast. Let's move on to Morgan Geekie again. We kind of talked about him during the contract discussion. We're going to talk about him again and how we're not going to talk about, how he could be traded or he could be signed. We're just going to talk about how good he's been recently, because he and Pastrnak have been the main force and source of the offense over the past few games. Morgan Geekie is up to 15 goals, which is now third on the team behind Marchand and Pastrnak. Parker, I'll start with you since you were kind of out of the AHL discussion. How have you been judging Morgan Geekie's game as of late, and how do you think he's been playing down the stretch?
I mean, you can't ask for much more out of him, right? Like he's found his groove and he's playing well alongside guys that he should be playing well with. And, when we came into this season, the question was raised is where do we put Morgan Geekie? And some had him as the 13th forward. Some had him as a third line forward. Some had him as a first. Some had him as a second. He was sort of all over the place. So I was very interested to see, where he would end up. And I think we finally found where he belongs. And I think if he can continue this success, great. If he can't, then I think they continue to move him around and see, who's hot with who. And I think in the long run, they always have this option of putting Geekie back with these guys. And who knows, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But at the end of the day, it's worth a try. And of course, if you try enough stuff, eventually something will go right.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, what are your thoughts on Geekie as a player recently? Not the fact that he could be traded or whatever. How are we feeling about him and his play as of late?
Just like that unknown name that just is really doing good things for this Boston Bruins team offensively. And I continue to compare him to Danton Heinen. I think that he's a player that goes up and down the lineup seamlessly and can create instant chemistry with whoever he plays with. And the Boston Bruins find huge value and versatility like that. So I appreciate his game. I appreciate that he's doing it above others that should be doing it. The goal differential is very scary when you look at it and the NHL standings. And, I don't think that's going to get you really good positioning if and when the Bruins make the playoffs. But Geekie is just a player that's coming in and doing what he can do to help this team out. I like what I'm seeing.
Kenny?
Yeah, I mean, he's hot right now, like red hot. I mean, rarely will you be scoring a goal standing right behind Devon Toews. That's how good he is. But I think like we saw with McLaughlin in Providence earlier in the year where it just feels like he can't do anything wrong. Every shot's just fine in the back of the net. Even that pass from Pasta over and Geekie shot it and ends up squeaking 5-hole. Like when do you ever see that happening? It's just when you're playing hot, it's incredible what you can do. And that's part of my concern is like, is this just him getting hot and playing with Pasta, or is this going to be long-term? If this is long-term and I can guarantee that, let's lock him up for 4 years. I like it. If this is going to be how it is from now on, it's great. And I'm happy for him because he is not one of these players that when we signed him, we were expecting these types of things out of him. We were expecting him to be that middle six guy who, maybe pots a goal here or there, just a nice depth piece. And now he's literally the center of the Bruins offense. I mean, without him, there's no way we win any of these games. So I'm happy for him. He's playing well. Just keep shooting the puck. That's it. Until the luck runs dry, keep shooting.
And the shots he's been taking are good ones. He has a hell of a shot. Whether it's a one-timer or a rip off the rush, he can shoot the puck. And if he's being rewarded for shooting said puck. So, and Gretzky said it best. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And Gretzky's right on the money with Morgan Geekie right now. Geekie is not missing a ton of shots right now. Yeah, he's just been a force to be reckoned with on the ice in the past about, I'd say, month recently, pretty much. So I think, you know what? I'm going to say it. Morgan Geekie has benefited the most under Joe Sacco of anybody on the team.
Oh, wow. That's a good point.
I'm going to say that. Yeah.
I like it. I like the hot takeaway, Sam.
I think he's benefited the most. You've seen a change in his game. Like, you saw it instantly. Within the first couple of games of Joe Sacco being the coach, something clicked, and he's been playing good ever since. I questioned why he was on the first line to begin with. Now I understand. He's been on the top line for the past few months. Now I get it. There's something there. And I think Sacco has finally figured it out with this guy. Put him in a spot to succeed, and he's going to produce mega numbers. So
I really like what Zach had to say there in the chat.
Let's see. Which one? Geekie is one of the few guys that doesn't always defer to Pasta, or?
Yep.
Okay. Zach says that Geekie is one of the few guys that doesn't always defer to Pasta. He will actually shoot instead of always looking to pass. Exactly. I know Pasternak's your best player, but your offense does not have to always revolve around the best player. Sometimes the players that are the hottest are the ones that should be shooting the puck. We're going to say the same thing in goaltending, right? Ride the hot hand. Ride the hot shot. And Geekie has a hot shot right now. He's not missing a ton. He is scoring a lot recently. If Pasternak's on the rush, great. If you find him, great. Pasternak's looking to Geekie. Geekie's not looking to Pasternak. It's the other way around right now because of how hot he's playing.
True.
So I think they've got something in this duo. I think they have something here. And you could see it building every game. I mean, there was a play. I know we don't like to talk about the Ottawa game from last Saturday, but it was a touch pass. Parker, you were above it. You saw it right as it was happening. Pastrnak found Zaka with a touch pass to Geekie in front. Zaka was kind of the bumper to find Geekie. Plopped himself in front again and tapped it in. A great play, Parker, right? You saw it in person right above the ice.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting to see how when you put the right players together, how everything just seems to work, right? It's like just almost like magic. And I think we've finally found where Geekie should be playing. So hopefully we'll see that continue. But at the same time, who knows? Maybe this is just a hot streak.
I'm really hoping it's not. And I'm really hoping he's realizing this is where he needs to be. You know, because let's say this goes into the end of the season, right? Whether that's regular season or playoffs, and they go with it again next year and it continues to work. If they don't move him or they don't get rid of him, this continues to work. This is you found a diamond in the rough with this duo. So I might as well ride with the hot hand, ride with the hot shot. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what I got to say about that. Upcoming games of the week here before you get into your live questions. Get your questions prepared. We'll be answering them in the chat. The Bruins will be in Buffalo on Tuesday to take on the Sabres at the KeyBank Center. The Sabres have been struggling as of late, although they did take the Oilers to overtime yesterday. That was a surprise. Did not see that coming. Although they were McDavid-less, but they still had Draisaitl. That's not an excuse. The Oilers are still a far better team than the Sabres are, and the Sabres took them to overtime. So what do we want to see out of this game? Parker, I'll start with you. What do you want to see out of this game against the Sabres on Tuesday?
Just a full effort. This last week has been a weird week where we've seen the Bruins have good moments and bad moments. I'd like just to have a good moment, the entire 60 minutes of good hockey. The penalties, they've been a problem, I'd say, for the most part. Untimely penalties where, you score a goal and then you take a penalty and you lose all your momentum. Full 60 minutes, play your game. Don't get outplayed by Buffalo. Set the pace and continue to set the pace throughout the game.
Mark?
Yeah, same thing. Don't play down to your opponent. Go in and get the 2 points. Zach said it completely. A full 60 is needed. Parker, I'm actually surprised you didn't put in for a media request for this game. Are you able to cross the border, Mr. Secret Agent Man?
Unfortunately, I do have class during that day,
Okay.
but don't tell my prof because I'll probably be watching.
That is funny. Kenny?
Yeah, simple. Play a full 60 minutes, get the win, and I'm praying now, fingers crossed, Georgi Merkulov in the lineup gets called up. I've been basically praying every single game, and I have a good feeling about this one. I do, but I've also had a good feelings about a few of the other ones too. So I don't know. I'm hoping to see him up full 60 and get a win.
Maybe this is it. Maybe this is all we need. All right. Maybe this is the chance. They're playing a weaker opponent. Maybe this is the chance for Merkulov to come up and blow up and have a great game. Who knows? Right.
It always seems like the perfect fit. It's like, okay, Boston didn't have the greatest game. Merkulov has like 5 points in 2 games this weekend, and they're not playing a great opponent. And then I get let down. So I got to stop getting my hopes up. I'm a Jets fan, so this is kind of like I'm used to this at this point, getting the hopes up and then just getting completely demolished. But, I'm still holding out hope. I'm please, just for me, give him a few games, please.
For Kenny's mental sake, get Merkulov up for a few games and see what the kid's got. And
for the fan base's mental sake. A lot of people are like Kenny.
I apologize for you being a New York Jets fan. Hey, you got your coach. That's good. Aaron Glenn.
Yeah, I would. Being a New York Jets fan is like an illness, honestly. We just keep going back and just new coach, new everything, whatever. I've seen it like 4 times already. New coach. Oh yeah, this is gonna be the year. No, it's never the year. And I got to stop buying jerseys. I bought an Aaron Rodgers jersey this year. He's gone. Bought a Zach Wilson jersey. He's gone. Like, come on now.
You got to get one like Parker and I, the real jersey.
I got Bruins jerseys. That's what I'll be wearing to any Jets game now.
Look at that.
Just let everybody know.
No Pooh Bear in the woods tripping on LSD. Not there.
Have you guys seen it? The jersey that I got for the holidays. Have you guys seen it? Hold on. I have it. Before we get to
Oh boy. It's going to be a big pile of poo. It's not worth it.
No, it's not.
I love Sam. No, it's not.
There you go.
It. I like it. There you go. You got Taz on the back? Oh, Martian. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I got Taz.
Yeah.
All right. So they play the Sabres on Tuesday. They then play the Jets on Thursday. Oh, shit. They play Winnipeg. The last time these two teams met, the Jets absolutely demolished the Bruins 8-1. I think it's quite simple to message here in this game. Don't lose 8-1. I think that's the only route I can go is just don't lose 8-1. Mark?
Yeah, same thing. This is gonna be a tough one. Regardless of where you play a team like the Winnipeg Jets, whether it be home or away, come out like you did against the New Jersey Devils, but hold a team like this back like you did with the Abs. That's the way I want to see it. Full 60 all the way, but this is going to be a tough one. If they pull this off at home, this is going to be good. I mean, there's some teams that are coming up in the schedule that are going to be a pain in the ass, and they're going to be wanting you to be further and further away from that wild card spot. So go in there and play like you mean it. That was my Billy Bean moment from Moneyball.
They also play Minnesota and Vegas coming up before the Four Nations face-off, too.
Exactly.
crap. Parker?
Hold on for dear life. I think that's the only way they got a shot on this. You know, you pull out the Latvia versus Canada strategy where you just plug out the middle and hope to God that they just keep shooting from the outside.
Buckle up, Bruins. You're gonna need all the protection you can get. Maybe put on some extra helmets, some extra pads. Buckle up. Kenny?
Here might be my New York Jets hope, but maybe the bus will break down on the way to the rink or something. We can get lucky here. You know, I'm gonna watch this game because you know, you never know what could happen, but this is one that I'm definitely nervous about.
100%. I'm terrified, especially from the last result. I remember I ended my stream early to go get a donut. That's how angry I was at this game when they lost 8-1. I remember after they made it 6-1, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to get a donut. Thanks. Because it was a late night breakfast here at school. And they were like, there's donuts in the dining hall. I'm like, see ya. Off I go.
Was it a good donut at least?
Oh, the donut was amazing. It was better than anything I saw in that Bruins game that night. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, that's not saying much.
No, it wasn't. But it was a good donut. And then I got back. I was hanging out in a friend's room, and then they said, oh, yeah, they just had 3 fights in about 30 seconds, and the Jets scored 2 more goals. I'm like, oh, great. Now they show up and start to care. So that's kind of what happened in that game, and I don't want to see more of the same. I don't want to have to be forced to go get a donut at 10 o'clock. Thanks so much.
The power of the donut. I love it.
Donut power. And then Saturday, they will be taking on the New York Rangers at TD Garden. That is an ABC game, by the way. That's going to be a 3:30 start. This is going to be very interesting. This is going to be a very interesting game because both teams are kind of in the same spot, battling for a wild card spot. Kenny, I'm going to start with you. What do you want to see here in this one on Saturday, February 1st?
This is just a game that, like, we need to have. I mean, we're you know, I think botching some points here. And this Rangers team, like, they're playing better, but they're still not that great. We should be able to beat this team.
Absolutely. Mark?
Yeah, same thing. Take advantage of any opportunity you can against a team that is struggling, but they seem to be playing a little bit better recently, especially Shesterkin. You got to get to an elite level goaltender like him early and often.
Absolutely. Early and often. Score early and score a bunch. Parker?
Lots of good, a lot less bad. For the Rangers, you know, they make a lot of mistakes. So capitalize on those mistakes. And, you know, for the Bruins, just playing their game for the full 60. It's going to sound like I'm beating it off a horse or whatever the expression is. But you got to make sure that you're taking it to the Rangers for the full 60. Because if you force them to make plays, they're going to make a lot of mistakes, and it's just on you to capitalize.
Absolutely. All right, it is time to move into your live questions. We only have a few minutes left because we have gone way over, but that's okay. We only have about 10 or 15 minutes to go on the show. If you have any live questions, it's time to submit them. If you have any questions, go to the live chat and make sure to submit them. We'll answer them live. If you're not on YouTube, head over to the Black and Gold Productions YouTube channel. Drop a like on the stream. Drop a big old elbow drop on that subscribe button. And make sure to hit that notification bell to never miss when we go live for the episodes of the podcast or when we upload clips of the podcast here on YouTube. We'll answer some of your questions. Here we go. Bill T with this one. Oh, boy. Everyone's opinion on trading Zacha, Zadorov, Frederic, and Elias Lindholm and a couple draft picks to see what the Bruins can get back in return for good players. Can we even move Zacha, Zadorov, or Lindholm due to a no-move clause?
No.
Frederic we can move, and they're going to move. They should move. And a couple draft picks, that's the worst thing they can do is move draft picks at this point.
Yeah, you want to replenish the prospect pool. You don't want to be giving up opportunities to do so. That's just my opinion, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. Parker and Kenny, are we in agreement on that?
You can go.
Nope, Kenny, you're first.
All right. Yeah, this is this is my third shameless plug of an article that I have written, but I think that this prospect pool, even when I was projecting the Bruins to be at pick 18, there were still some really good names on the board. So there is just, in the way the prospects are right now, there's just no way. I think they're undervalued league wide. I think that we have a decent prospect pool. Like, we definitely have some good names coming up, but it's not like, where we should be. So we should definitely not be trading picks. And then half these players have no movement clauses, so we can't even move them if we wanted to. So.
Yeah, you can't move them, can you, Parker?
No. Well, and that becomes the question, right? Is what is this team? Are they contenders or are they rebuilders? And right now, I think we're at the point where I think everyone's kind of middle of the road on this team, right? And for me, I think there's still a shot here. And I think especially the way the Bruins play come playoff time, you can't count out a team like this, right? Where you've seen it in years past where there's teams that kind of squeak into the playoffs. You think Florida was that 2 years ago who kind of crept into the playoffs, not expected to do all that much. And then all of a sudden, because of the way they've played throughout the season, they continued it into the playoffs and they just pushed teams around. And that's exactly what Boston tried to do from the start. In the podcast back during the off season, all we had to say was it's size. And we've sort of seen that a little bit this year where, the size part is hurting them right now, where they're sort of looking a little slow at times, not quite having the ability to play to play and keep up with other teams, but they are built for the playoffs. So I think if you're looking at it from that perspective, you just got to make the playoffs and then anything can happen. 16 games, Stanley Cup's the hardest trophy to win in sports.
Here's my take on it, right? I think the Bruins overshot on size and forgot about speed in today's game. I think what they need to do is find a good old happy medium. You have your size, great. You need some speed too. You just need to make sure that you're not stationary in the neutral zone. You need to make sure you're moving. And I think when people can get to speed, it's great. But they need to get a little bit more speedy, especially in that middle six, because it's not amazing right now. Does a trade have to happen to make room for Merkulov, or do you see them waiving someone to give him a chance? Well, right now, the first thing that I would do would be to waive Wahlstrom and give Merkulov his roster spot, and then give Merkulov a chance in a game. That would be what I would do. Give him games and give Merkulov Wahlstrom's spot, and then trade Frederic eventually if they do, and give Merkulov his consistent spot in the lineup. I don't know if we agree with that. Kenny, I know you're the Merkulov big super fan in here. Wahlstrom and Frederic moved, so Merkulov has a consistent spot.
I mean, I'm impatient, so I don't really want to wait until March to see this happen. I think the team is struggling right now, and I think that Merkulov brings something that the team needs. I mean, he has versatility. He could play on any of the top three lines, clearly. He's fast. He has the skill, and he could add to that power play, which has been a little bit better, but still not at the clip that the Bruins want it to be at. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to wait until a trade. And the problem is I feel like when you get down to it, I know Merkulov's going to battle regardless of where the Bruins are in the season. But say we get to the trade deadline and the Bruins are completely out of it. I mean, I feel like half the team is basically going to be playing meaningless hockey there. And is that the situation that you want a guy to come into? And then what if we get to the trade deadline and the team's in the hunt and then Sweeney still doesn't want to bring him up? Like, at this point, I'm just like, can we just take what we can get here? He's producing right now. He's red hot right now in Providence. There is no reason to have him down there right now. Call him up, do what you need to do. Let's just figure it out.
I'm with you, Parker.
It's hard to put it much better than what Kenny said.
Just bring the kid up. Mark?
Yeah, same thing. It's just at some point, whether regardless if you're in the playoff picture or out of the playoff picture, you need to see and evaluate what a player like Georgi Merkulov has at the NHL level to negotiate with him moving forward. The Bruins should be using a roster position for him as a negotiation tactic. Like, use this to your benefit. You hit this metric, you didn't hit this metric, but you still need to see what he can provide to your team moving forward if he is, in fact, in your future plans.
Fair enough. I'm with you guys. You got to give him a shot and see what he brings consistently in an NHL game. I agree. Question for everyone: would you give Joe Sacco one more year to prove to see what he gets for a full season, or do you go and sign a new coach like not Quenneville, or Gallant or another coach? It honestly, to me, depends on how the season finishes. If they get to the playoffs, okay, maybe give Sacco another year, maybe. But if not, clean house. Clean house. Not just in the coaching staff, clean house completely.
Yeah.
And that includes the front office.
I agree.
Parker? Uh-oh.
I'd like David Carl personally. I know it's not going to happen, but as the World Junior guy, I'd like to see David Carl as the coach of the Boston Bruins.
Would be interesting. Kenny?
Yeah, there's definitely a few college coaches that I'd like to see, but I think to Parker's point, David Carl would be great, but I mean, it needs to be like the perfect opportunity for him, and I don't know if this team is the perfect opportunity for him. I live in North Haven, Connecticut, which is right down the road, like walking distance to Quinnipiac, and their coach there, Rand Pecknold, who's coached World Junior teams, he's definitely had a few NHL offers that he's turned down just because of, it's just not the situation for him. So I don't think we're going to get Carl. I mean, I don't know. I haven't really been a fan of the coaching this whole year. So but I don't know who else we would bring in that I would like. So it's all just, it's more about the players. I think it's more if the players respect the coach and the players, buy into what he's saying. And I just haven't seen that since the beginning of this year for both Montgomery and Sacco. I just haven't seen the same buy-in that we've seen in years past that have elevated those teams who haven't really had the talent, but they still make the playoffs and still make deep runs like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Who's each of your trade deadline acquisitions, and do they go big, or is it a small but many kind of deadline if they buy, that is? Mark?
I think they're going to make a trade for the sake of making a trade, and this fan base shows that Sweeney and Neely have a pulse. But I honestly don't think that they should be swinging for the fences. I don't see this team making a big trade and making a serious run to a Stanley Cup. I just don't see that happening this year. I'm probably in a very small group, but I am a stand firm and use all assets you can to sell off, if at all possible, to get draft picks to build on this summer at the draft in the I believe it's not Staples Center, isn't it? No, it's in LA anyway.
Whatever the hell it's called, the crypto.
Cryptocurrency something.
Whatever the hell it's stupid name, anyways.
Yeah, but I mean, if this was a cup team and they were playing much better, I would be like, yeah, let's make some deals to make this team even better. But I just don't see it. So why spend valuable assets that we really don't have to get better when we probably won't? It's kind of weird for me. I'm at a weird loophole in this whole thing right now. Yeah, it's strange.
I would really okay. So here is my take on it, right? I want to see what the next 4 weeks look like for this Bruins team before I make a judgment on if they should sell or if they should buy in, right? And when they do that, I said this last week on this very program, I said conservatively buy or conservatively sell. Don't go completely all in, but don't completely sell off everybody. Okay? You can't do that. I mean, you're just literally going to have nobody. You're going to have a depleted team, and that's not what you need at this point. conservatively buy or conservatively sell. I think the next 3 to 4 weeks, including that from now up until the Four Nations face-off and a little bit after that, is going to really tell the story of what this team is going to look like and what the front office is going to do. What are they going to do? They're going to buy. What they should do, I don't know. We'll let the next couple weeks play out. That's my thoughts on it. Parker?
Wow, well said.
Yeah. I mean, it's also about who else is selling and who else is buying, right? Because in 4 weeks, the Canucks very well might right their ship. Pettersson might not be on the market. Miller might not be on the market, right? Same thing with this Bruins team. In 4 weeks, or however many weeks it is, the Bruins might be up at least in a comfortable spot in the Atlantic Division, right? It's just a matter of 4 weeks can change a lot for this Bruins team, for other teams on the market. You know, the Rangers could lose all their games in the next 4 weeks and go off and sell all their team, right? It's just a matter of who's hot at the right time. And that's what I think this trade deadline is going to be all about.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, good. Okay, this is the final question we're gonna be hearing from today. Do you guys think Sweeney knew that Rantanen was available? Like, is he doing his job and talking to all the other GMs? I definitely think that he knew, but I don't think the Bruins were willing to give up the assets required for Rantanen. And
Or had the access.
I don't even think they had the assets to give up a guy like Rantanen. For Natchez and Drury going back to the Avalanche, would they be the equivalent of a Morgan Geekie and no, not a Geekie, a Charlie Coyle and like a Trent Frederic? They can't move on from both those guys right now. I don't think they can at the moment. That's my take on it. It kind of sucks to see Taylor Hall off the trade market. I was kind of hoping that maybe some the hell how they get Taylor Hall back. Obviously, it didn't happen. That's fine. I don't think the Bruins would have been able to acquire Rantanen with the current asset pool that they have, the way that Carolina does. Which, by the way, Carolina, if you don't win the Stanley Cup this year, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Nico Rantanen. Okay, you've got what else they got? They got Jordan Staal still at the end of his career. They have Jarvis, Aho, Kotkaniemi. What are they doing? I don't even know. I like, that is crazy. If they don't win the Stanley Cup, the Hurricanes, I don't even know what's going on. That might be fireable in a lot of different situations, coaching and the front office, if they don't win the Cup. They bought in, and if they don't win, Carolina, I don't even know. I don't even know where to go from that. That's my take on it. Marker, Parker, or Kenny, or anybody want to buy in?
I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah. The other thing I might add as well is Rantanen had, was it 22 team no trade or 10 team no trade?
Something.
It was something like that. So, and the other thing is, very well, he might have been on that the Bruins might have been on that no trade list, right? So it's hard to say. But at the same time, the Bruins didn't have the assets to get Rantanen unless they were going to spend big, like a Lowry, like maybe even a Merkulov. Lysell doesn't have a lot of trade value to a lot of the other teams, but obviously those are the kind of guys you'd have to move to get a guy like Rantanen, especially trading to a team that's a contender. Not a lot of assets they'd probably want. So that's kind of the two things you got to keep in mind, right?
Yeah, 100%. Kenny?
I said it earlier. You could sell and make the playoffs. I think that's a possibility. And you could sell and you might not make the playoffs. But is this team really a Stanley Cup team? I don't think so. And then you could buy and still not make the playoffs, which would be a catastrophic failure. Really, you can't buy and not make the playoffs. That would be a huge, huge problem. But I hate this position because I don't know if Don Sweeney's doing what's best for the team, or is he doing what's best for Don Sweeney? Who knows? I don't know. I think that they're going to keep trying to make this playoffs just so they could say they made the playoffs. But at the end of the day, I'm one of those people that are like, we can't be mediocre. We can't be out in the first round. That would be a failure of a season. I would rather not make the playoffs, get a higher pick, and see some things done with management and coaching and players. I just feel like right now we keep winning bad games and nothing's happening. And that's why we keep winning bad games. And like I said, when we play teams like Winnipeg, playing that bad game, we're not going to win. We're going to get blown out 8-1 against teams like Winnipeg. So yeah, it's working against the Sharks, but it's not going to work against other teams. We need to start selling. We cannot buy.
See what happens down the stretch. But that's going to do it for the questions portion, which is going to also do it for episode 379 of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. This was a fun one here today. Make sure one more time, if you have not yet, if you're live on YouTube, make sure to like the stream and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the bell. Make sure you never miss when we go live or upload here on the Black and Gold Productions YouTube channel. Make sure if you have not yet, if you're listening audibly on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to drop us a 5-star rating and a nice review. It helps us out big time, and it helps us grow to become one of the top hockey podcasts out there. Any last words, everybody?
Join our Discord. We started a Black and Gold Production Discord, and we'll put the show notes in here,
right?
and all. It's in the description right now. So please, if you want to continue the conversation, join our Discord. And this is a great community that we're trying to build. Not only is for Boston Bruins conversation and so on, but also to get ideas about topics that you guys want to have us discuss on this program weekly. So it's a really good tool for everybody to talk bees, whether it's good or bad, but also provide feedback and what the fans are really talking about for us to provide quality topics here at the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast.
Absolutely. So make sure the link is down below in the description. Go join our Discord. Absolutely. You guys should, this should be a definitely fun time to chat with you guys, and maybe we'll get some ideas about some possible topics or segments here on the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. Kenny, good, and Kenny and Mark, good luck watching the Providence Bruins game here today against Laval. Kenny, I know you're going to be posting the Providence Bruins goals today, as always. Do some good stuff over on your X at Kenny Kaminsky on X. He posts all the Providence Bruins goals over there. I was kind of following along on his X last night. Yeah, it should be a good time here today against Laval. 3:05 start over at Amica Mutual Pavilion in Providence. Parker, thanks for joining us today, and thank you to you, Kenny, as well, for joining us here on the pod today. Thanks for choosing to spend your Sunday late morning and early afternoon with us here today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And with that being said, have a fantastic rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the week of Bruins action. We'll be back with you next week for episode 380 of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. For Kenny, Parker, Mark, and myself, signing off for now. We'll see you guys next week on episode 380.